What's going on, man?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's Friday. Hey, what's up, chat?
Hell,
I know
chat.
we're a little bit late, and you guys have already been having conversations. I'm not even gonna be able to catch up to as much stuff you guys have been talking about. But I will say, hey to Leandro, Jamie. Who we got? We got Primetime Polton. What's up, brother? Booty Juice. Such a funny name. Nefarious. What's up, Nefarious?
What up?
Like I said, you guys are way ahead of me in the chat, so I'm not. Oh man, like I want, like instinctually, I want to just pop up everybody's comments so far, but we're gonna start fresh. We're gonna start fresh right here.
Okay.
So, what's up, Jeremy? How's it going, brother?
Jeremy?
And I just want to say, before we get too far into the show, so JonBoy's running a little bit behind here. So we're just waiting for him. We're still kind of waiting for him to show up, but we figured we'd start the show instead of letting everybody sit here and wait in darkness. But so we'll keep you abreast of the situation as we find that out. Titties. AAT. So how's everybody doing in the chat? Let us know.
You guys like the Snyder Cut? Have you seen the Snyder Cut?
Oh man, the Snyder Cut. Yeah, who has seen the Snyder Cut? Yeah, we late. Everybody's late. It's all good. It's all good. I saw the Snyder Cut, and it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It was absolutely awesome. I'd love to know how many people saw the Snyder Cut in the chat, and if you liked it. Yeah. Did you like it, Nefarious? Was it epic? Is the way I describe it, is absolutely epic. Like, all right, here. Abreast of the situation. You know what's going on. You know, one thing I'll say about the Snyder Cut is it's got a completely different feel than any of the comic book movies I'd seen up to that point. It even has a different feel than like Batman v Superman or Man of Steel in like scale. The visual special effects were amazing. Good enough. Oh, well, I'll take it. Regardless, it was a vast improvement over what we got in 2017. I'll say that for sure. And I was extremely excited about it. I woke up at 2:30 in the morning so I could watch it when it landed on HBO Max. And I watched about almost half of it before HBO Max. I don't know if it was my server or if it was HBO Max, but it started just to load.
Dude,
it was doing that for like 5 minutes, and I was like,
my TV, I went to go because it's a smart TV, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like you need to update the app. I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm going crazy.
Oh.
I'm going on YouTube. I'm right. I listened to pretty chicks that told me how to do it. How to get the app off, read the app. That didn't fucking work. So I went upstairs, connected my iPad to my TV, and the box was small of the screen. I'm like, it broke. Because sometimes that'll happen. If I watch an app through the iPad through the TV, it's small box. And then I'm like, let me check something out. Because then like you came in my ear like Jaga. You're like, oh, it's really cool because they're doing it like this. And I'm like, Joe said some bullshit. Maybe I should have paid attention. So I put another show on from Max on the iPad, and it was normal. I'm like, I guess that's what it is.
Yeah. It's the 4 point. I can't remember
IMAX.
Yeah, it's the IMAX ratio.
TV, yeah. So
and there's actually a video. Yeah, Leandro. And again, if anybody missed it, JonBoy Meyers is running late. So we decided to just start the show instead of leaving everybody just waiting in here. So as soon as he gets here, we'll pop him on and we'll get rolling. So we'll keep everybody up to date on what's going on with that. But sometimes stuff like this happens. There's nothing we can do about it. So we are just going to talk to you lovely people because we love you all.
Well, there you go. That's optimism.
Yeah, that's some optimism right there. But yeah, I liked it. And there's a video on YouTube you can find that's got the comparison to the original, the 2017 version, which is in the widescreen format or whatever you want to call it, and then the new version. And it's amazing that the newer version with the boxes on the side is so much taller. Like you can see the entire
Why
scene.
can't they make the whole fucking thing bigger? Like, I'm not that smart. Like, I don't get it. Why can't you just make it fit the whole TV?
I don't know. It's something to do with, I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah, I'm not that smart either. But apparently they can't. But I actually, I didn't even notice it. Like, it looks so good. I didn't even faze me one bit when I was watching
once
the movie.
I got into the groove of it, I was like, all right,
yeah.
cool.
Yup. So.
But that was, I started watching it again yesterday. Well, yesterday morning. Then my iPad died halfway through, so I got to finish that tonight. But yeah, I'm probably going to watch it as many times as I can. Because if they're going to do the same thing where they cut it off in 30 days.
That's what I've been hearing.
You know?
And then I think after that, it's going to be the chapters.
Oh,
I think
really?
it's going to be. I think it's going to be released after that in the chapter version. So it's
Okay.
almost going to be like a season of the 6 different chapters.
I'll take it.
And then, yeah, I mean,
who's they?
I'm not sure.
Is it the Muffin Man?
But yeah, no, I mean, it was a complete win. I've seen nothing but positive things, ranging from kind of like what Nefarious said, where it was like it was a vast improvement, whether you thought it was great or not. Dang, dude, that was loud. Unprofessional. I got my phone here. It's on mute. Son of a bitch. But anyway, yeah, ranging from that to ranging from excellent. I think it's just, to me, that's the kind of movie I watched. I was like, that's what I've been waiting for. And I need to see more of that. And I hope that Warner Brothers is smart enough to let the dude finish his story. Doesn't have to be 2 more movies like it was. He could try to wrap it up in 1 more movie. But I would say, like, restore the Snyderverse, give us the Justice League 2 and 3, and then be done with it. You know, then he can just move on. But
the people that started the movement,
yeah,
I remember it was New York Comic Con of 2019. I think that's when they did the billboard in Times Square. And then when I was hanging out by Rob, like the people came, you know, they had a picket sign, and Rob took a picture, and it was all cool. And so that was kind of cool memories and all that, to see it kind of begin and then just push forward. There we go.
Well, yeah. You know, fashionably, it's not a bad thing.
Represent
it's not a bad thing.
State.
I agree.
Yeah.
I would like to see a proper Man of Steel 2 with Snyder and Cavill. I don't want to see a new Superman movie. You know, it's a reboot with a different Superman.
Well,
give me a Man of Steel.
I haven't read into that. Like, I don't know if they're doing that version, like the multiverse of the character. So if that's the case, cool. You know, if it's a multiverse. Exactly.
But that's, you know, Nefarious, that's what I like about. I like the dramatic feel of things. It's just the storytelling. You know, it's almost like Michael Bay, right? Michael Bay, in every single one of his movies, always had a scene where it was a slowed down version and the camera's doing the wide sweep underneath the actor as they're turning, and you're getting this like crazy movement as you're coming back around to the actor's face, showing like some kind of facial expression. But I love that kind of stuff. So Zack Snyder's like over dramatic aspect of slowing down stuff, and when it's just like walking, like I think it really works. I can understand why some people don't like it, but visually that was just, I really dig stuff like that. As far as like the multiverse stuff, I think what J.J. Abrams is doing is going to be doing one of the multiverse Supermen. Yeah, I can't remember who it is, you know, but it's not going to have anything to do with Cavill. So as far as I know, Cavill's still going to be this Superman. But if they're going to do anything going with these characters, I want Zack to be back on board. Sure. Because with his direction, Wonder Woman was a great movie. Without his direction, without his plan, Wonder Woman 1984 was trash. You know, it wasn't good. So like, I hope he can come on and correct this. And people that hate him are going to hate him. People that like it are going to like it. But give it the full story and then let time tell. He also likes slow motion a lot. At least a third of the film is in slow motion. All the action scenes and the action scenes with flash or slow motion in slow motion. Yeah, it's just a style. It's a style. You know, some people dig it. I personally like the slow motion because it reminds me of like John Woo. Remember when John Woo came on the scene and he had in all his action movies were always like slowed down.
Yeah.
But there was something about that aspect that really kind of built the tension, you know, made it just kind of a bigger scale. And what I like that Snyder will do is he'll have it slow down and then he'll have a speed up. So you think of like movies like 300 when they're doing a real dramatic like turn and swing when they're fighting and it just goes in this ultra slow motion and then it speeds up and they're just, you know, hacking away. There's just something about that really gets me. It's almost kind of like anime-ish kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Though when Batman had the last, yeah.
Laser, not Lasser. You were about to say Lasser.
Lasser. I almost did say Lasser. Thanks for calling me out live on that. Yes.
That's what I'm here for.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, let's call it a Joeism. How about that?
Okay. I like it. The Joeism.
Yeah.
I'll take it. But yeah, Steppenwolf was way better character design, way better villain.
He looked like a potato.
What?
Yo, his face was
maybe a turtle.
He looked like
maybe a turtle.
I'll work with that. Yeah, a potato turtle.
Hey, what's going on, Paul? Good to
Paul,
see you.
Doing, brother?
Lassie. Look, Zach fucked up on the community that raised that money for him. Charity very personal to him, but it's also also to others who were smitten. He supported charity. He's a grown ass man, and he didn't need to diss the fans like that. I agree. Absolutely, I agree. And I put out a video about that, kind of talking about it. Like you said, it's an auteur kind of thing. Bay has explosions, Snyder has slow motion, Tarantino has blood and cursing. Yeah, that's an understatement for Tarantino. That dude I don't think he could do a movie where you can't say like fuck every other word, literally, and then a bunch of other stuff.
Sounds like
I'm surprised
at my place.
I'm surprised he hasn't been canceled with as much things that he's said in his movies. It'd be interesting. Maybe he's uncancelable. Hopefully. I wanted more Manhunter and I wanted to see Green Lantern and Hawkman/Hawkwoman. And I wouldn't have minded seeing Darkseid actually scary. Well, you know, the thing about, yeah, and I agree with you. The what we did get to see, and by the way, spoilers, anybody, if you haven't watched it,
you're fucked. You're
fucked, I guess. We'll try not to go too much into it. But yeah, the Manhunter thing was awesome. Yeah, I think seeing Green Lantern and Hawkman/Hawkwoman would have been really cool. But as far as Darkseid, it was the setup for Darkseid.
Sure.
We know that he's coming in the next movie, so I think we would have got to see like the scary version in the next movie.
Anorexic, like when he first jumped out of that ship and he didn't have his blue chest plate. It was just like he looked. He looked like he needed to talk to somebody about his feelings.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be a younger version of Darkseid. Before he was, reached his zenith there with his armor and stuff. But yeah, he did look. I mean, that's some of the
cast shadow, not really.
That's some of the some of the complaints I've been hearing. It's just like Darkseid's, because he's a thicker character in the book, wider stance. I actually personally liked it. I thought it was fine. I still liked it.
He had the armor on towards the end. I was like, that's cool. It fills it out.
I still like his films. Just disappointed. He let Warner Brothers rule his life, considering they hired J.J. Abrams in his place. Yeah, Warner Brothers suck, man. Corporations suck. That's just, he was under immense pressure, and unfortunately, he handled it very poorly. So we'll see how that affects him with the fans going forward. I, for one, am a forgiving person, so we'll see. I'd like to see him kind of come out and clarify. I think the statement that he made was very sloppy. I don't think he meant to have it come out the way he
both together.
Yeah, I think that was very sloppy the way he did it. I think that should have been some kind of pause and a break to separate the two, and he didn't. Yeah. So a lot of people thought that he was clumping them in one, and still do. And that, I look at it a different way, but it was poorly handled. Oh, sorry, Paul.
Yeah.
We're not going to go into great detail, but I mean, sorry. Spoilers if you haven't watched it, get off the show.
We need the views.
Well, we need you. Yeah, don't leave yet. Darkseid would rock Thanos. That's always really been an interesting discussion. Versus, and I've heard, okay, with the gauntlet, no way. Thanos with the gauntlet, no way. But without the gauntlet, yeah, Darkseid.
Yeah, got the Omega beams.
Yep. I will agree. That's how I'll break it down. Again, my argument. Without the gauntlet, Darkseid, absolutely. But if Thanos has that Infinity Gauntlet with all the stones, I just, I couldn't say that for sure. Loaf Joe. What'd I say?
You pinched the loaf?
No. Well, I did pinch a loaf earlier.
Oh.
If anybody wants to know. Very regular bowel movements for me. I'm a very healthy guy.
Right.
No, it said life, and I said loaf, but it was Lofe. Obviously, it wasn't loaf because it was spelled wrong. I'm dyslexic, Jamie. My eyes see what they see. Yeah, and I'm with you guys on Darkseid destroying Thanos without the gauntlet. That's all I'm gonna say.
HBO Max.
HBO Max, yeah. If you don't have it, just get the free, 7-day subscription of it, watch the movie, and then jump off. But it's definitely worth the watch. That's true. That's a good point. And if you consider that the multiverse of both DC and Marvel exists within the same multiverse, that would be interesting. That would really be interesting because I think that
upon multiverse.
No, I just think the multiverse has somewhere DC and Marvel. And at some point, the fact that they haven't done another crossover, and that's the perfect way to do it, is the multiverse. But they exist.
I think that's because of Quesada. I don't think they. I think once he got into office and he started to.
Yeah. There you go.
He's doing it to sell books. He's like, he did it in his way, and I think from what I heard, the deal was like never going to happen again. Once, if he's there and I'm there, but the deal's not. Well,
yeah, because the deal's gone, and who knows? Maybe they will if they want to make some money.
Give me the Amalgam universe.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was real awesome.
Yeah, I think everybody would like to see a crossover as long as they didn't, virtual signal and let a lot of the pompous people write the book. If you just did a good crossover, and then you could have guys like Thanos and Darkseid going at it. Yeah. In fact, that would be, to me, the catalyst of the story. You got two of the more powerful characters in their own perspective universe throwing down. I think you could weave a really good story out of that. Yeah, who knows? We'll see.
The Ultraverse, that would be cool.
Bring the Ultraverse back.
Yeah, I love
the Ultraverse. I remember the Ultraverse. I hated the Ultraverse.
Really?
I don't know why. Because I think you had B characters and you had.
I was just gonna say that B-level image.
Yeah, B-level characters in there, and I think the creators or the quality of the books were B-level as well.
They had some gems.
At least the ones I saw, maybe.
Sure.
Maybe I didn't see the right ones.
Right.
But what I saw was just kind of like,
basic art, like basic character model sheets, if you will.
Well, we've been going for about 18 minutes.
Let's talk about us.
I was just going to say, I still haven't heard an update, just to let you all know. So if JonBoy can't come on, we will definitely reschedule. I'm sure, like I said, stuff happens.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So we'll just roll with the punches. I love some Ultraverse. Maybe I need to double check into it again.
Check out Room. Prototype was awesome. Prime was fun.
Prime was good. I liked Prime.
Prime was good?
Yeah, I liked Prime. Prime was good. She needs a happy hello. Sounds like she had a long day.
Hey.
What's a happy hello? Like is that happy? Hello. How you doing? I hope you are.
You.
There you go. Do you have a light? Just look for the light. Boom, light right there.
No,
Nightman.
Nightman was good.
Forgot about Nightman.
Yeah, Nightman was
good
awesome.
point. Good point. Forgot about Nightman.
Some great Kyle Holtz art, I believe. He did a run.
Just like a happy ending. I love happy endings.
I don't think I can get into that on there. These things get saved.
Well, before we go too far, it's Friday night. Thank you for joining us. I'm starting the show, dude. I'm starting the show. I said we're 20 minutes in. We haven't done anything yet. So we're going to officially start the show.
Okay.
Welcome to the
And stuff. I'm Sean Ahrendt. I can't tell time, but I'm here. And with me, as always, is my brother, Not.
Well, I am the very talented, the very sexy, the very distinguished, always narcissistic, but never vain. A staunch defender of Rob Liefeld and Gina Carano, and a lover of all things 90s. Joseph Michael Sonntag, or Joam Sonntag if you prefer, or as the Pope likes to call me, JMS. Welcome to the show, everybody. Hold on a second. I just got a message from JonBoy.
Nice.
I am going to step out here for a second.
Okay.
It's all you, Sean.
All right. So the preview for Type 1 is I'm probably going to launch that in 2 weeks. It won't be on Indiegogo or Kickstarter. It's just kind of like how I did my sketchbooks. Hit me up, slide up in my DMs. It's the first 15 pages, the first chapter, if you will, in black and white lettered with some extra bonus content material. And if you pre-order, I'll do a head sketch, but for the mods and our friends of and stuff, I'll do a bust. It'll be on the backboard of the book. And so I'm thinking about having that open for about 2 months. I did the sketchbooks for about a month and a half. Just, people coming in and filling all that up. But so a couple of weeks, Mark's going to do some editing this weekend because he's very, very busy. I never lose it. I've always got it.
Looks like we got our guest coming on. Looks like we got our guest coming on here soon. So. All
right, cool. So probably within the next 2 weeks, I'll be announcing officially when and whatever. So it'll most likely go to print.
Apparently, there was a mix-up on time. It's all good. It's all good.
So end of May, I'll probably send it to the printers, and then it'll take a couple weeks to come back. So by mid-June to end of June is when everybody will officially get their books because of shipping and all that. And that's the cover that you guys chose, and I really appreciate you just supporting, just giving love.
Wait.
I was just expecting myself to come on the other side with you, like big old.
Now that would have been cool. I'm not gonna lie.
So getting some pages under and just working on it, having a lot of fun. Oh no,
it's different. This is gonna be an actual book.
Yeah, this is Type 1. This is the first 15 pages of the book I'm working on myself.
It's like an ash can almost.
Yeah.
If you want to look at it like that.
It'll be normal comic book size. Again, 15 pages of the story, and then a couple extra pages of bonus content material. And I got something lined up to do for it, and hopefully you guys will be excited when I show it off. Hopefully by the time of the 1-year anniversary show. No, it's not going to be a campaign, at least for the preview book. It's just, if you want it, hit me up, slide in my DMs. It'll be the book's $10. Yeah. $10. No worries. $10 for shipping. If it's outside of the States, it'll have to be $20 because that's just, shipping is expensive. But if you are on the pre-order, you'll get a head sketch. But if you're in the on stuff community, I'll do a bust. And just when you hit me up, put Type 1 preview and ANS bust. Just so I know, because sometimes I get confused.
All right, looks like our guest is in the house.
Word.
So we're going to bring him on here in a second. Sean, do you have anything prepared? Because you are the hype man that brings our guests on. And I'm going to throw you on the spot here.
This guy's artistic
all right,
killer. He's worked for Marvel, DC, Image. He's worked in the animation field. His style is dope. He's good people's. I've met him a couple times at a convention, but I'm sure he's not going to remember because he meets nerds all the time. I'm not nerd from that time, but no, he's.
Remember me? I was the dude that did this.
Remember me?
I said this.
I had that book, but no. Please bring up JonBoy Meyers.
There we go.
Hey,
what's going on, man? How you doing?
It's so bad, man. I thought I wrote in the planner that it was 7:45 Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah.
So
yep.
And I'm like, oh no, it's not. So I'm just like, oh, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I got to do this cast now. She goes, you better get moving. I was like, oh. Sorry, guys.
No, we got to.
No, it's all good, man.
Ourselves, and that's always fun. But it's a pleasure to meet you. You're so inspiring, dude. You're
well, Well, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on, Sean and Joe. Thank you guys again.
You're welcome.
I'm really sorry I'm late. Let's catch up for lost time. What have I missed out on so far? What do you?
Yeah, well, so far, right now we were spending the last 20 minutes talking. We talked a little bit about the Snyder Cut. For everyone who's seen that.
Yeah. I'm halfway through it. So
halfway through. Okay. All right. Well, we won't do any spoilers. We let a couple spoilers go to some.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm the type of guy where I don't care about spoilers. I'll still watch it and enjoy it.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't bother me. So,
but Zombie Superman is awesome.
But honestly, like, they're the story beats of the movie are still the same, but it's a completely different movie. With how if you saw the first one or the original one,
right,
and then you're seeing Zach's version. So anybody that hasn't seen it yet, the overall story is the same, but it's told in a completely different way that makes it almost a brand new movie.
You care more about the characters and understand where each character is kind of coming from, and I think the idea that you can't sanitize. It's just a good example where executives don't really understand what makes for good storytelling and good filmmaking and things like that. I do kind of feel bad. I guess the only person here is probably having a worse time than anybody else is probably Joss Whedon. So he's probably he's probably like, oh gosh, now they really hate me, So poor guy.
Yeah, he's not having a good time.
No,
for a lot of things, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
Watching the movie, I could not believe that they decided to go in a different direction. It's like you said, like character building wise, you spend so much more time in the backstory of each of the characters. You care, like you said, a lot more about them. They all have something important to do in the movie. Right. And if you watch the 2017 version, there were some characters that they regulated to the sidelines, like Cyborg and the Flash. And in this version, both of them have a much bigger role in this movie than they did in the first one or the original one.
Yeah.
So storytelling, a lot of people like to give Snyder some crap for not being a good storyteller or and a lot of it I think is so many of his movies have suffered so much from editing because he had to have a certain runtime. Batman v Superman was not good in the theater because it seemed like a jarbled mess. But when you watch the extended version, the R-rated version that they released on DVD, so much better because scenes were in it, deleted scenes were in it, extended scenes, and you could see that there was an overall story. So this movie, I think, was just a masterpiece because it was 4 hours. Boom. He got everything in there.
Yeah, I think it sets the tone because the thing about the Snyder Cut, which I like, is I think executives have a hard time because you kind of go in every executive I've ever talked to. Sorry, let me shut this thing off. They're always like, well, Guardians of the Galaxy changed filmmaking, and this is what audience want. They want more slapstick and it's kind of like that works well for Marvel movies. DC movies are a little more grounded, more in reality, a little more grittier and things like that. And it's okay to fully embrace that, And I think that's what people have a hard time distinguishing, kind of like separating against. So when you try to sanitize it, you're trying to, everyone dumps on Zach, but Zach's an amazing filmmaker. I think he's had really one dud kind of
sucker punch.
And you can't judge a person's entire body of work based off of one film. That's like judging me off like my worst day, as an artist.
Right. Exactly.
Like my first 10 years of being in comic, it's like, you can't do that. It's it's unreasonable. But here's the thing with that. I think the work speaks for itself. In fact, that I think it's resonating with so many people. And people are like, "This is the movie that we should have gotten."
Oh yeah,
it's kind of a nice wake up call for Warner Brothers as an entire studio environment for them to kind of rethink. When you empower creators, you hire them based off of what they what they do, what they've done in the past. So to try to turn a Lamborghini into a Ferrari is not going to work. They both go fast, but they're different type of cars. So
yeah. And it's funny too, because this movie if this original version would have come out, I'm sure it would have been trimmed down still because a 4 hour
it was supposed to be 2 movies actually, part 1 and part 2. So
this whole thing,
Yeah, that's originally, that's why it's like 4.5 hours long. It was supposed to be Justice League Part 1 and Part 2. So
okay.
each film, I think, released within 3 months of each other, I think, if I remember right.
Okay.
Kind of like
that
a
would have
Matrix type of thing for like
that would have made sense
the
then.
last two. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
But it's funny, like it would have come out before Endgame and Infinity War.
Right.
And it would have had it. DC actually would have beat Marvel to like the epic scale of what Infinity War was. With granted, Infinity War was like this giant thing at the end, but it had that epic feel to it. Up to that point, and this would have actually come out and kind of beat that feel to it. Because you see some of the early the origin scene, so to speak, of Darkseid originally coming to Earth, and the big fight scene with him in the Heroes of Earth back in the day.
Makes more sense, right? You're like,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny too because they replaced him with Steppenwolf in the original movie, so they took that out.
Design on that character in the first movie.
Man, it was stupid. The thing I was saying, like, it wasn't for a villain. He didn't seem imposing or threatening in any kind of way. The original design of Steppenwolf.
He looked like an actual action figure brought to life.
Yeah, it was just like I was like, this is it. Like, okay, I guess, But now, with the jagged metal and the messed up kind of face that they gave him,
the potato face
or the turtle face, I thought he looked like more like a turtle.
He just wants to go home, man. You look at him every time he looks like when he sees Darkseid, he just wants to cry. You're just like, I'm sorry for the guy. He's like, but I mean, I don't want to jump on like other people's work as far as like the original crews who worked really hard on that movie. I think they probably all in unison, like, this Steppenwolf design is a step back from what we originally had. But you got to pay the bills, and you have to. I mean, we've all had those jobs where people are like, "Well, this is what it is, so just do it."
Right.
I really think it's. I lost my thought.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. I do that from time to time.
He does it a lot.
I was just going to say I do it for
I think the difference though so again, this is the problem with studio movies versus boutique movies, because Marvel movies are boutique movies. There's like
truth.
They're only like 6 people in charge. I mean, their asses are on the line, but there's only 6 people really in charge of making and shepherding those films. Versus a whole entire studio, we have all these voices in the room, kind of dictating what the narrative is. And the thing about Endgame that makes it a lot more epic is because a lot of these characters, we've been with these characters for like 5 to 10 years. We know their backstories. We're invested in these characters. Whereas Justice League, when you're coming in, you have this big epic thing. And the thing that falls flat is just in the original movie, there wasn't enough narrative like you guys were talking about. For people are really invested in these characters. Like, well, we know Wonder Woman and we know Batman. Aquaman, yeah, he's cool. He's kind of like the crazy Conan character. Okay, cool. We kind of get him. But everyone else is kind of sad. Like what they really did to Cyborg's character is a travesty, really.
Oh yeah.
But this is what happens when you don't have those build up of those characters. I think if those single movies came out first and then you culminated with the Justice League, I think it would have been a much more powerful movie because you wouldn't have to spend more time on the backstory of each character because we'd already know it going in. Front loading, and then you can tell a much more interesting story and expand on what Darkseid is, his quest for the anti-life, why it's so important, because they don't really touch a base on why the anti-life is important to Darkseid.
That's true.
It's kind of like, like Dr. Evil is pretty simple, right? He wants $1 million, right? We all know million, right? We understand.
Yeah.
But with Darkseid, the anti-life equation is this thing that bends everything in creation to his will. So you're like zombie slaves to Darkseid, but they don't really go into it. So it's kind of like
that's true. They did
more interesting. Sorry.
What I really enjoyed is you're right. They should have had is Warner Brothers really wanted to catch up to Marvel because Marvel had so many years putting the single movies together and going out and doing the Avengers, and it just worked really well.
Right.
And they were like, let's skip all that and let's just dive into Justice League. So if they had the Cyborg movie or the Aquaman movie, Wonder Woman, all that kind of stuff before, after Man of Steel, and then brought them all together, it would have been so much more Avengers.
You can't have pie for dinner. You can't have pie for dinner, man. You got to have like the salad and the soup, and then the entree, and then you have the dessert. You can't eat dessert first, man. Like
yep.
I guess you can, but then it's just it's full, man. Like I don't want anything else. Like,
You know, so yeah, that was definitely a mistake of theirs. But I would say that this version, Snyder's Justice League, was the best he could have done to make those characters feel important.
Sure.
When the first time you see Cyborg, Flash, I guess
Aquaman,
Aquaman. Thank you. Yeah,
Martian Manhunter. You know,
Martian. Yep.
like,
Yep.
Hey, like
that was so cool.
that's
That was so cool. I was like, man, I need more of that. I
Mhm.
need more of that. So, but yeah, I mean, so I think he did the best he could with the time he had, and unfortunately, they decided to screw it all up and do what they did with the movie and release it the way they released it and just moved on from it. But I think this is going to be something that Warner Brothers was probably fearing, because I don't think they want to dive back into that version. But if there's enough fans out there, I think they might be forced to have to bring Zack back and say, all right, finish your story.
I think the thing about it too is essentially like only like a small percentage of what Zack shot was actually used by the Joss Whedon cut, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they had to refilm and reshoot all that. So usually when a movie's done, some of the sets are torn down, actors move on, effects are done. But they essentially had to pay for 2 movies for 1 movie. So that's why they kind of killed it, because they're like, well, we didn't recoup any of our costs on this, and we're just not going to do this. It's not cost effective. But essentially, when you look at the math on what they did, they made 2 separate movies.
Yeah,
that's why that was out of control. They, you have a bigger nut to hit, and you don't hit that,
right?
And I think with this, like the probably only saving grace coming out of still in pandemic is streaming. How big that is, and how people enjoy narratives, and how many people are signing up now to enjoy these things. You're going to see a big shift where more things are following the Netflix model of release on their own channels, and then people subscribe just for content on that. And if you get every household to spend $15 or $20 just in 1 month, just for one movie, and to enjoy all the stuff, and maybe they'll stay. I mean, it's probably more, and you're talking worldwide audiences here. So I think you have a farther reach, more money. I think the math on this would be for them to try to continue this, or at least right now, put the heels on this and try to build out that Snyder Universal, but with maybe doing the Batfleck, Deathstroke movies, letting those things kind of happen and see and the Flash movie, and start tying these things together. And there's ways to save it. I think it's just whether or not the right people are in those meetings actually making those right decisions. Like, okay, this is something that's feasible. It's because talking to an exec, it's not the same thing as like what they, they're not exactly fans of the genre. When people say we love comics, they're like, it's not true. Like, they don't collect comics. They don't, Kevin Feige collects novel. So, so it's, that's kind of what you're up against. But I mean, the fact that any type of movie gets made, or superhero movie that gets made, is a huge feat in itself, because making movies in itself is such a long, hard process. There's so many voices in the room, and to get something that's actually really, really good, or like 75% good, is something you really can stand on and be like, oh my gosh, this is such a great thing, because it's really hard to come by in the movie business. So,
that's a real good point.
Yeah.
Hey, Badger Comics. Hey, Christopher John. I think I got the rest of you guys who jumped in here late. We really appreciate everybody joining us.
Sorry I'm late, guys. Chris, Jamie, Christopher, Badger Comics.
And again,
sorry.
It's all good. Like, when you're dealing with different time zones, this is not the first time this has happened. So it's all good. I figured that was probably what was going on.
So that's all that matters.
You're like this jerk off is like, oh, he's like a show. He's gonna bail on us. Like, oh man, what a dick. Oh, look, can we say that? I'm sorry. Are we allowed to?
You can say whatever you want on this show. This is an adult. Yep, this is an adult rated show.
Okay.
So
And you know what? The really cool part is like we get to see a dead lantern in the future Flash.
Oh yeah.
Thing. It's kind of like, who is that? Is that like, oh man, that's so cool. So
it kind of looked like Kilowog to me.
I didn't really
Well,
pause to look, but
because it was real quick. Like you said,
Right.
they panned up past his body and all that kind of stuff. And I tried to look. I didn't go back and look at, but my first impressions, that's what I thought by just looking at the body and looking at kind of the face. But, you know, and it could have just been maybe just a random design.
right.
You know, but yeah, I saw so many cool things about that. They're setting up like the future. And like Sean and I we were talking about before you came on, and we were talking about it before we went live. And it's just like it when you watch the entire thing, you leave wanting more. And that's the ultimate goal of a movie is to make you want to come back when they make another one. And they achieved it with this. So
Right.
And there was heart to it, like the characterization, like the core of them, like we were saying earlier, I connected to, and I want to see more of these characters. I want to see their trials and their ups and their downs. Because prior I wasn't. Now I'm all about it.
Yeah, like it's kind of interesting how, like, you know, a lot of people have done a complete 180 now on the DC movies a little bit. Because I mean,
yeah,
when you're looking, oh, thanks, Christopher. When you're looking back at the thing, you can't compare Marvel to DC. That's the thing, you know what I mean? You gotta like separate the two, and it's a different type of feel, a different type of thing that they're going for, and you know, it's like, hey, you like Coke, you like Pepsi, that's cool. You can like both, you know. You Dr. Pepper. Everyone likes Dr. Pepper.
That's what I'm saying, Dr. Pepper. Yep.
You know, yeah, you know, I mean, I think it's just.
Hey, great question.
Yeah.
Jamie said on your page you have a Venom 32 cover. What inspired you to do that cover?
The null one. So that was done for Big Time Collectibles, and I was trying to come up with something. Usually, I try to come up with something iconic. So when I'm doing retailer covers, it's always in my mind like, you have to do something that doesn't suck. You have to do something that you haven't seen. You have to do something that is going to sell for the retailer, because you don't want to do a book where it's just dying on the shelves and you can't move it, because there's you know, it costs about like 13, 14 grand to do a retailer cover through Marvel. I mean, it's some crazy number. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
I didn't know it was that much. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot. So, you know, you want to make sure that you're doing some art that's you know, going to up the game on it. So usually, I know they wanted null on it. Marvel told me like, hey, the retailer wants null on the cover, so just do something cool. And I'm like, okay. So I kind of just go through and do a Google search on what all the null images that I can find and put them in. I'll put it like a little mood board together. Mm-hmm. I'll just look at all the images and say, okay, so what's popular is people like null with the sword. So it's like, okay, cool. I got to do something cool with the sword. So yeah, there it is right there. So I'll kind of do something that people quite haven't seen. They've seen him do the sword like this, Conan style and all this. I was like, well, what if we did like kind of him doing like the whole Thundercats thing? Because like it's kind of like where he's going to lift it up and go, oh, sorry. So I kind of did that, and people liked it, I think. So yeah.
Jamie is a huge Venom fan. So
oh, right on. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. And you know, since we'll segue here to talking a little bit more about your art and your career.
Sure.
Here in let me see. I was like, all right. So yeah, if anybody's got any questions about JonBoy's career,
thanks, Leandro. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you want to throw it in there, we will definitely ask it. So yeah, Sean, I'm throwing the show to you because I'm talking too much.
Well, can we go into your origin? Like what kind of
origin story? Yeah. So
go as long or short as you want. Like I know you're a huge crew with animation too, so
I was kind of a chubby kid, so I wasn't very active too much. So, but I'm a military brat. So my dad was an MP and on the military base, and usually when some of the GIs would get drunk, they would throw them in the holding tank on the weekend just so they dry out. Sure. So you get arrested and you get in trouble, but it's not like military rules are not the same as like outside of military base rules. It's a little different. If you've been in the military, you'll know what I'm talking about. You still get in trouble, but there's certain levels to trouble. But so while the GIs are drying out, they would always go to the local, it's called PX, which is Post Exchange, which is kind of like a 7-Eleven. And they would buy comic books and leave them in the cells so soldiers could read stuff and pass the time while they're
Oh, nice.
And every time my dad would come back from his shifts, he would bring some of those comics home for us. So we would have this little like lampstand that opened up, and on the bottom he would put all the comics in there for us. So we couldn't take into our rooms. We'd have to share all the comics, which when you're a little kid, it's like sharing's the worst. So
Right.
but
Even as an adult, sharing's the worst.
Oh, okay. So we'd read these comics all the time, and for me, I loved them so much. Like mostly, my dad would bring home war comics like Sergeant Rock and Weird War Tales, Enemy Ace, stuff like that. And one day he brought home a Captain America comic, and I was just like, "What is this?" And I've never seen a superhero comic before, because prior to that, I thought superheroes weren't comic books. It was just kind of like on Saturday morning TV, like you had the Hanna-Barbera stuff like Space Ghost and all that stuff. I'm kind of dating myself here. I mean, if you remember Space Ghost, but Space Ghost was the shit.
I remember Space Ghost.
Yeah, and the Herculoids and all that stuff. And I loved it. But anyway, so we brought home Captain America, and I just fell in love. And I was like, oh, what is this? So then all the neighborhood kids, we all started like, talking about comic books, and they were like, oh, I like X-Men, and we were talking about X-Men. So we'd take our allowance money and we'd run down to the local, like, we call them shop eds, BXs, PXs, shop eds. We'd run down there, and this is when comics are like 40 cents to a quarter, 55 cents. So we would save up, and then we would pool our money and we would buy comic books. And then I started drawing, and everybody in the neighborhood would make our own comics. It was kind of stupid because we're stupid kids picking our noses, because we would spend like a week to 2 weeks on a comic book. We'd staple together, fold the paper in half and try to sell it for a quarter. So we would like spend 2 weeks on this, right? And then we'd go out and buy one comic with it. And we're thinking, well, that's how you make money. You have to, we're just stupid kids. We didn't, but
I like it though.
Yeah. So that's pretty much got me started on my quest to do comics. And I was like 4 years old when I started doing my own, trying my own stuff and working, like making my own comics and telling stories and stuff like that. Like that was something that was always like really cool, because I was a little fat kid. So I'm going to do all day. So
I was a little fat kid.
Sit in my room, play with my superhero toys, my G.I. Joes, and draw comics and try to do cool stuff, and I mean, that was pretty much got me rolling on the visual narrative. I mean, I've been hooked ever since. I've always been working in comics in some form or another. Even when I kind of took breaks to work in animation or took breaks to work in games, it was always comics is kind of that first love. That girlfriend is always coming back to break your heart a little bit. So
and I'll take her back anytime. It sucks.
Yeah, it's just like, I wish I could quit you, but I can't. It's like so. But yeah, that was pretty much it. And since that time, I've worked on just about everything. I've worked on X-Men stuff. I've worked with like guys like Chris Claremont. I worked at Image, working on Spawn with Todd McFarlane.
Yeah.
Teen Titans over at DC. Inhumans over at Marvel. Some of my very first Marvel work was the kids line, but it was Spider-Man was my first professional Marvel job. So. Hanna-Barbera stuff. I love the Hanna-Barbera stuff. That was all like Alex Toth stuff too, who was a comic book artist. I actually worked in the 60s.
Huh.
A little bit of Kirby here and there, like Thundar and all that.
Thundar. I still love all that stuff. Like it for me though, the two cartoons that are hardest to watch now are old Thundercats and He-Man, because in my mind it's so cool, but then when you watch it as an adult, you're just kind of like
Like, I know exactly what you mean.
What's going? Yeah,
I'm going through them right now, and
don't do it. Don't ruin your childhood, man. Don't do it.
That's why I don't. That's why I don't.
While Thundercats
I'm right there with
better
you.
Anatomy, if you will, or style guides, He-Man. I'm just like, what the fuck was I thinking? Why can't I get my time back in my life rewatching this? But I own it. So
I loved it. I love it. It's hard to like what's built up in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you remember of it as a kid, like when you watch movies as a kid and you're like, oh, I remember it's so cool, and you watch it as an adult, you're just like,
right.
man, this sucks, man. Like,
This is
what's
horrible.
wrong with me? You know?
Yeah.
It's like,
I got bad taste.
yeah, like what the hell? But I mean, but the thing is, I think it's, when you're a little kid, everything's a big movie to you because we don't have that experience in life that gives us things to relate to. So when we see these things, it kind of blows our minds. You're like little minds blown. You're like, wow, oh my God. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's for me with comics too. Just like, I just couldn't get enough. Like, I just got to draw it. I got to do all this, so.
Who was the first artist where you were like, wow, like shit?
I think the very first artists I grew up loving was guys like Joe Kubert and Alfredo Alcala, kind of the older school guys, because those are the guys who did the war comics. That was
true.
First, like I didn't know. I do remember Felix the Cat, but those are the first things. But when I discovered Jack Kirby's work, it was totally different from what I had seen before ever. And then when I discovered guys like John Byrne and Michael, like, it was amazing. But then I discovered Michael Golden, and Michael Golden just like, I was like, holy, I was like, oh, this guy's amazing. Then I discovered Arthur Adams. Then at the same time, I discovered manga.
Oh, damn.
We had all this bootleg manga coming into like, this is like a comic shop in Colorado Springs, go to the mall, and they would have all these bootleg VHS or art books or whatever, a manga that I would buy. And I'm like, what is this? I had no idea what, like, I discovered Ninja Scroll, and I was just like, this just blew my mind again. I was like, wow, I fell in love all over again with the medium. And it just kind of like, that's kind of where like my wheelhouse is things that kind of move, have a certain style or energy to it, like manga. Like guys like Michael Golden, Joe Madureira, Scott Campbell, Jason Pearson, Stuart Amonin, they all have a sense of motion to the work and storytelling and narrative, and just that's kind of stuff I kind of gravitate to. It just kind of like, I think whatever made an impression on you early on is kind of like the stuff you kind of gravitate to a little bit.
Good point.
Because it's just your proclivities. Like, hey, this is what I like to do. This is kind of what I'm into. So, yeah,
definitely the animation feel. Like it's
right.
It's you have they're stiff in whatever the comic, but you bring life to it from whatever you add to it. And that's why I love your stuff, man.
Oh, thanks,
never
man.
Never dull.
Yeah. I don't know if Christopher's asking. Did he ask an unsavory question?
I don't know what that means.
I was gonna say I'm not quite sure. I was waiting for a break, but I'm not sure what you mean, Christopher. There are no unsavory questions in the show.
Well, there was. So, like at the same time, Ninja Scroll came out. Like one of the managers recommended, oh, you should watch this thing called La Blue Girl. It's so awesome and so amazing. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I bought it and I watched it, and like, I was just like, this is not for me because it's all Japanese tentacle porn. And
I was just gonna say, I didn't know, I wasn't sure what it was, but I figured it was probably something like that. Because,
dude,
there was a lot.
$42 on like a 30-minute anime DVD that like I couldn't take back. I'm like, look, this is not my thing. I'm like, here, just keep it. I don't want my money back. It's just not what I'm thinking. Like, I like stuff like Ninja Scroll. That's what I'm into. So.
Yeah, Ninja Scroll was amazing, and is still amazing. That's still one of my favorite all-time movies.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that changed my life when I first saw that movie. I think we just talked about this not too long ago in a couple, maybe last stream we did or 2 streams we did ago. The subject of Ninja Scroll came up, and it was just like the animation was so awesome. So awesome. Yeah, it does. And that was one thing I love about the old anime movies. Is that the animation does still hold up. You can go watch a movie from the 80s and it's just still so good and crisp and just it flows nice. Like they had it going
North
on.
Star was good too. Like I liked actually the Kinchi Sedona stuff, like Gunsmith Cats and Dirty Pair and Bubblegum Crisis was stuff that I actually kind of liked as well. I mean, it's kind of interesting where like you kind of go down these little rabbit holes of like art and comics and animation and just kind of get sucked into this whole other subculture of things like obscure, like, oh, what is this? Like, oh, this is this thing. Because like Dragon Ball in the 80s was kind of undiscovered a little bit. Yeah. And one of my brother's friends moved from Japan and had all these hours and hours of like Dragon Ball Z on VHS that he recorded. So it's all in Japanese. We'd watch it. we had no idea what the hell they were saying, but it was just cool animation. Like, Goku fighting,
Right.
all these guys. It was just, yeah, it's pretty amazing, man. Like, oh god, old school, man.
It's very operatic, like with Giant Robo.
Giant Robo is great too. Yeah, man. Like,
There's some boring ass parts where it's operatic, but it's the story and it just flows and it's beautiful.
As long as you have the subtitles, you can track what's going on because they'll just be standing there and then they won't move. And the background will move. You'll be like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know what he's saying. He's reminiscing about something, right? That's where framing is so important. Like, if you don't have the subtitles or they're not dubbed and the dubbing is not good.
Oh.
Like, right. Yeah, I do remix. I remember the remix with Scotty. Yes, I remember those guys. Yeah. It was the Lead Heavy days. So that was.
Was that one of the art books you guys put together? When
I wasn't part of that clique, so I wasn't part of the cool kids. But that was like Greg Titus and Corey Randolph, Sean Galloway, Sean Gordon Murphy was in it for a time.
Really?
Mark Brooks, yeah, and Scotty Young. It's pretty much mostly East Coast guys, so East Coast New York guys, like Chicago on. So except for Sean, who was West Coast, I think he joined later. So yeah. Talented dudes, though. Even since day one, those guys are awesome. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Vampire Hunter D. Yeah, that was another.
Yeah.
That still holds up too, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's still like benchmark anime. Like, there's stuff that you can watch and still pick up, and it's still super relevant even today. Like, Trigun's a little hit or miss sometimes, but Cowboy Bebop's the same way, a little hit or miss. But like modern stuff that I like now are like Kill la Kill. Anything by the Studio Trigger stuff is really good. Like Little Witch Academia is really good. Yeah, I love that stuff. But yeah, I'm a geek for anime though too. Because I mean, look at my work. You're like, oh,
sure,
right.
So
I used to really be into anime when I was younger because that was like the closest you could get to what I consider like comic book style movies in animation because you weren't really getting that in America. Cartoons at the time, and I'm talking when I got into it was in like the early 90s. And you had some good stuff that America was doing, but like when you looked at the style animation and the more adult themes, when you're talking about violence, you know, even sexuality, it was like more R-rated stuff. Yeah. That you as a kid that's hitting puberty, you know, and you're really wanting something more than just like your Saturday morning cartoons. That was the kind of stuff that really started to get me, you know, just excited about. And I always wanted to be an artist when I was younger. And that was another thing that propelled me forward into drawing. You know, it never really influenced my art, so to speak, because I was just like really hooked on like the, you know, the Jim Lees and the Rob Liefelds and you know the Mark Silvestris and stuff like that. But it was something that visually wise just would make me sit down. I couldn't get enough of it. I mean, I collected a ton of anime when I was a kid. Christopher John said I was with them for a while, maybe a year. Oh, you're talking about the remix or the?
Oh, was he with them? Was he? Oh, I didn't know. That's cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool, man. Oh,
no, that was crazy. That'd be crazy.
I wanted to be Optimus Prime.
I wanted to be Raphael. So
Raphael was cool. Like the Turtles movie was pretty cool too when it came out. Like,
oh yeah,
that was like a Dark Knight for kids. You know, like,
that was so good.
Well, I think as young adults, like we were all at that age where we didn't want stuff to be sanitized at that point. Like when you found something good and kind of underground, it's like it kind of doesn't play down to you. It plays up to you a little bit because, you know, you're like, oh, it's got violence and nudity. And it was kind of like, oh, well, hey, this is cool, right? Because I think for us, like in the 80s, like, you know, sneaking into R-rated movies was a thing because hopefully you might see a boob or something.
Right.
Awesome. Like that's why like Nightmare on Elm Street was so cool because we're all like,
right, yeah,
people see a boob, like
a little bit of nudity.
You're like, oh, you know, when you're a kid, you don't know. But you know, when you get past that, I think, you know, it's more about the violence is sometimes gratuitous, but it leads to some of the narrative too of what the story they're trying to tell, which was kind of cool. Yeah. At least for Ninja Scroll it was. But you know, I mean, you know, it doesn't speak to everybody because, you know, nowadays everything's a little bit more politically correct. So
yeah, true.
You know, things are kind of, well, yeah, sanitized again. I get it. I don't like people telling me what I can, what is or isn't good for me to be like, experiencing because I'm a adult and make those decisions. But I mean, I get it. You know, there's this whole weird subculture thing going on right now where people like to be able to, you know, there's no forgiveness ever.
Yeah.
For one
Yeah.
guy.
Oh yeah.
Never.
Yep.
You're kind of like, so.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it to no end. It's just, it's needless to me, and it's putting a lot of handcuffs on our artistic freedom. I think, and a lot of things when it comes down to the whole cancel culture aspect, or just a finger wagging because of whatever. You know, it's just, yeah, you're right. I absolutely hate it. But Paul, yeah, the Guyver,
Hell yeah.
I agree with you on that.
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
that was another movie anime that changed my life. And then the movie came out with Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
The first one, it was awesome to me when I was a kid. Like, I saw that, I was like, "Oh, this is the greatest
All the
thing I've ever
effects were
seen."
amazing. The suit was amazing, man.
Oh, so good,
Yeah,
so good. Even the sequel that was a little bit more Power Ranger ish, you know, was still really, really cool. But that first movie, it was just dark. Mark Hamill was in it. Like, it was just.
When I get into Power Rangers, man, like, man, like even in the '90s when the Power Ranger thing craze is going on, I'm just like, I don't care. I hate it.
Right.
I mean, not to shame anybody who does like it. I think it's
right. Yeah.
Like, for me, it just wasn't like. I'm more like, give me Godzilla, like I want that, right? You know, and stuff like that. You know, like, I just wasn't. Because I hated the reuse where they used the old Japanese footage and cut it into American stuff.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, just do our own thing. Like, why? Like, if you look at all the backgrounds, all the cities, it's in Tokyo. The letters in Japanese are like, you don't, like, come on, man.
You know, and I never noticed
like
it.
an LA skyline, you know.
I never noticed it as a kid. It wasn't until like I became an adult and started looking back
Like, what?
and learned a little bit about it. I was like, wow, how did I miss that? But, you know, as a kid, you know, you just kind of sucked into the story. And I hated Power Rangers when it first came out. But for some reason, there was like a small period of time where it became cool. And so like I started kind of liking it for like a small period of time. And then I went away from liking it again.
Oh, so
not
like
too
when
long
you were
after
like
that.
A New Kids on the Block fan in the '80s. You're like, dude, you
Never
suck.
happened.
But that
Never
Donnie
happened.
Wahlberg, he's pretty
Never
cool.
happened.
Yeah.
The thing about
Never
it,
happened.
I kind of like the first and second seasons of it, and I think what Boom is doing with the whole Dark Universe, Dark Mirror stuff is kind of cool. Like, that's kind of changing the narratives. Because, like, to be fair, I never really sat down and read a lot of the comics, but I love the art in it. It's always fantastic. But just like Power Rangers in and themselves, I'm just like, I can't. It's like it's so hard.
Live action Voltron, you know.
Yeah.
You know what? I prefer.
Yeah, it was Saved by the Bell. Yeah.
Animated Voltron and Orbots and stuff like that. I was like, just give me that instead.
Yeah.
I'll keep that up all day. So.
Hey, Leandro asked a question. He said,
Yeah.
"Do you have any personal creations you may ever plan on doing crowdfunding?" Because on this show, we talk about crowdfunding quite a bit because we are big supporters of the indie scene.
Right on.
You know,
yeah,
so.
I love indie stuff. Like, I'm actually working on a creator own book right now called Princess Dragon Killer. I've been working on it now off and on for 2 years, and
Nice.
yeah, I'm trying to, like, as soon as it gets done, then I'll start putting it out. I hate talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about it, you want to show it. And it's like when it's ready.
I feel you.
Like, but I'm really big on doing creator-owned stuff. I think
That's awesome.
Yeah, you get to kind of do what you want to do. You don't have an editor telling you, "Oh, well, this is too cartoony. This is too anime." I was like, "Shit, this is anime as I want to be."
Right?
Yeah.
You know, you kind of do what you want to do and tell the stories you want. And you can make it as bloody or as violent as you want. Like, I think for me, though, it's just making sure the narrative's right, because you can have a really nice, really well done book as far as art and color, but if the story's not there, then you're like, hey, that's a, you know, good art. The story sucks. And you're just like, oh. So,
Yeah.
I've been spending a lot of time with developing that story, and I'm at to the point now where I'm like, I think I'm going to bring in a co-writer to help me out. That way, she can kind of help me kind of like figure things out. Like, I'm working with Etta right now, and she's kind of like, hey, maybe about this, think about that, because, you know, as me, I just want to go on like, oh, it's fine, do some cool stuff, but then you kind of want to do some character development stuff too. So, but like, I think a lot of the stuff that I've been buying mostly are mostly independent stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, like but a lot of stuff that Boom does too, I've been picking up too. I really like the stuff they're doing there. I think Boom and Image are always been really good places to pick up indie books. And Crowdfund too is really good too, because I kind of like the model. because the idea of just direct market is cool, but if retailers don't order your book, there's a lot of good books that get kind of overlooked. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Just 'cause people aren't familiar with the creators or the titles. You know, you're kind of taking a chance too. You're kind of like, well, crapshoot. You spin the wheel, like it may be good, maybe bad. Who knows? You know?
Yeah,
Now,
like
do you have a sense of like since your creator own is personal, like when you're talking about it, it's kind of like you maybe a positive dude, but it's like your own kid. You're like, do you really want to hear it? Can I tell you about it? Like, cause I'm a douchebag of a human being, but when it comes to like my creations, I'm like, do you guys really want to hear about this? I got a
Well, the
story.
thing about it is like, I think here's the thing. Here's like, so in my like 25 plus years of doing comics, like this is what I've learned. Like, don't share it until you're ready to launch it. When you launch it and advertise it, talk about it all you want. Talk about the
Right.
characters, names, concepts, everything. But until then, don't say anything because people will steal your shit. So
Yeah.
they will steal your design sense or some of the character names or a title. And these are only people you know, people you call your friends. So just don't do it. Like, don't do it. Like, don't, it's not worth it. Just don't do it. Like, just when you're ready to put it out, then you put it out. Like, you do a teaser, you put it out, then you start talking about it. Say, this is it. That way you have all this content. No one will accuse you of, oh, you bit this from this guy or you stole this, or we're like, no, like this stuff was already done and out. That way it's kind of like, you know, you're not mad at anybody. The work stands for itself, can speak for itself. Because the idea, when you're talking about great ideas, you know, and sometimes when you're running off like diarrhea of the mouth and you tell too much, people might say, oh, that's a really good hook. I'm going to take that and develop it even further. And then you're just like, oh,
Right.
your book is no longer that original now. Because people are like, oh, well, Jimmy Jojo Smith did that in his book. You're like, oh, Jimmy Jojo and I are friends. Like, Jimmy Jojo, why'd you steal my idea? And it's like, well, you just put it out there. I'm like, hey, it's free for everybody. You know, at that point, you know, there's.
Yeah,
And Jimmy
that's-
Jojo's an asshole. Don't be Jimmy Jojo.
Well, yeah, it's, you know, it's not being an asshole per se. I mean, we think that in our minds, like, how dare you? We're
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
You asshole.
Right.
But the thing more about it is more about like, I think it's just those ideas that make what you do, Sean or Joe, what make you guys unique and the way you see the world and your spin on things is super unique to you. If you have an
Right.
idea for a book, that is super unique on how you view that thing and how you're going to put it out into the world. And when you share that before it's ready to launch, you're just giving that stuff away for people who will just steal it and just do whatever they want with it. And you don't want to do that. Like, don't do that. You know what? And I know, like, good ideas are like Doritos. We'll just make more. And I believe that I wholeheartedly. But it's like, you know, I've been working on this thing. Like, Princess Dragon Killer has been in my head and on my sketchbooks and things like that for 10 years, 10 plus
Oh
years.
wow.
Yeah, and I don't want to flush 10 plus years of ideas and designs down the toilet just because I was too stupid and I shared it with the wrong person. You know what I mean? Wait till you're ready, and
Good
then
advice.
Yeah.
Solid advice. Yeah.
Yeah, that really is doubling. Well, two things. That's one of the reasons why I don't talk too much about my story vastly right now.
Don't do it. Yeah.
Because of that reason. But I have released like promotional art and stuff, and I will say that the first time I released the colored version of my cover, which I'm still like, you know, 6 months or whatever out from even doing the campaign, but I wanted to start some, you know, intrigue or whatever.
Right.
I did get a guy accusing me for ripping off his character, and I'd never seen his character before. I didn't know who he was. It just had like kind of a similar look. So that kind of stuff goes out there. And then like I actually had to not really produce, but you know, like I created this character back in 2005. So I've got all my evidence of when I did all my designs and stuff, but just, you will run into that, I guess, you know, unless
this is why it's
some of
always,
that stuff.
yeah, to trademark it, start a trademark or copyright stuff before you launch your book, because usually, so I'm experiencing this right now. I'm going through this, and I mean, it costs money to do. It's not cheap, but
Yeah.
it protects your interest later on. This way, this is my character. This is what he looks like. This is everything that he's about it. Here's the first and second issues. Like, you'll have stuff in print. It protects your copyright, but you got to file all that paperwork. I mean, you can get a good copyright lawyer to help you out with it, but you want somebody who's specific with publishing. So you're like, you know, we'll help you put together. And the two classes you really want to focus on are like class 9 and class 16, which covers the digital end of content in digital media. And the class 9, I think, is all printed media. Those are the classes you want to file. But you want to get that process started now. So once you do put your book out, you have a full year to put out that content. Once you have one issue, then you do a second issue, then it's more than just a one-off. Then it secures your trademark. Because up until then, you want to do a name search, a trademark search to make sure you're not infringing on anybody else. Because if you spend all this time and money, like let's say, the thing is called Dark Skull Man. Dark Skull Man. You've lived with this character for 10 years, and then you put your comic out, and then you start your copyright afterwards, or your trademark, and you find out, well, Dark Skull Man, somebody already owns that, and they send you a cease and desist, and now you have to change your whole campaign and everything that you're building towards. So
that's a good point.
You always got to kind of think about those things because, as artists, sometimes we get really stuck on a name or a concept or an idea or a look, and we don't want to let that go because it's lived with us for so long. But sometimes you're forced to because of the situation you're in. So always kind of I would always recommend try to do some searches, and trademark search for name copyright and stuff like that. Make sure you're not infringing. But then, if you're serious about putting a book out within that year, don't talk about it. Hire your trademark lawyer. Get your stuff done. Follow your class 9, your class 16, and once you have the intent to use paperwork filed, then you can start. Hey, here's my stuff. Here's this. Here's that. Because that intent to file means you're going to use it. And it's going to happen. It's going to come out. So that intent to file does protect you, but you have a whole year after that intent to file starts to really fulfill that, which is that product, which is more than one issue. So, this is stuff that you don't know until you start spending money on lawyers to find out, and you're like, oh, okay, this is it. But you want to protect your interest,
Yeah, definitely something good to know. Sean, you writing all that down?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. You want to just do it. Because honestly, it may costs you anywhere from like $5,000 to $15,000 to trademark. Well, it depends how much your lawyer costs, and
right.
It depends where you file to. Because if you go with a bigger firm, you're going to spend more money. So
sure,
yeah, true.
Or you can work with like one of the guys. Like there's other guys out there like Gamal Hennessy, who you can find him. He does I think creative consulting. And he can do all that stuff, and he does work for hire stuff and things like that. He does a lot of stuff for a lot of indie people. So he works at a discount to help like struggling creators like us guys who aren't made out of money, to try to get our books out and everything like that. So they're really good resources. Gamal's great. I work with him. He's awesome. There's other guys like Harris Miller, who's a really good entertainment lawyer. You got guys, trademark lawyers like Michael Lovitz in Los Angeles is another great guy to work through for trademarks. So a lot of good dudes out there, and a lot of people don't know who to reach out to. It's just sometimes when you're looking like guys like Harris are really great resources. They're entertainment lawyers though, so sometimes if you find an entertainment lawyer who believes in you and your project, usually they'll just sync up with you to help you out, and they'll. Usually sometimes they'll work out deals where they get 10% of your IP, but then they'll help you with all your filings and all your contracts. And
got you.
Because, it always helps, but these are things people don't know about until you kind of until you're in the weeds of it. And by then you're kind of like too late. Like, oh shit. Yeah. So
Leandro brings up, Joe, read that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Leandro said, but Sean and Joe have been showing off their stuff for a minute. Can they not use the stream as proof of originality ownership?
So it gets tough because yes and no. It gives you somewhat of a leg to stand on, but this is why the trademark thing exists. And yes, Library of Congress is also a resource. But so the two things you want to keep in mind is if you're a creator, you want to create. You don't want to get bogged down in I have to do all this tons of paperwork, because then you're not creating, you're doing tons of paperwork. So if you can split your time doing it, that's cool. But as creators, you want to be focused on what? You want to be focused on art, writing, creating. You don't want to be You know what I mean? That's like do-it-yourself plumbing. You could do a pretty good job of it, reading a book and following the instructions.
Right.
Sure.
But there's probably going to be things that you missed out on or maybe did not do quite right.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas getting someone who actually that is their whole purpose and job to do kind of covers you a little bit. You can just focus on. But I understand, though, because things cost money. I mean, it's, no one works for free.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to do. So, I mean, it's but proof of originality is always going to really stand more with the person who actually holds the trademark or the copyright. Showing your work sometimes is just on a stream for the past 3 years is not enough, because then that could be where you're just pumping into the ether of content that's already out there. When you put it on the internet, it's free to share for everybody, so it's consumable. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I feel what you're saying.
It's nebulous, and why put yourself in that situation? Because the thing is, as a creator, you want to create. You don't want to get bogged down in legal crap, and you don't want to take people to court. You don't want to do that. It's just like you want to create and do your books and make money, and hopefully it's profitable, so you can continue to do that, and life goes on, and everyone's happy. That's the main thing about creating. It's like the worst thing you can do with a creator is put shackles on him as far as what he can and can't do, because he can't write or draw because he has all this mountain of paperwork to do because he has to. You know what I mean?
No, I feel what you're saying.
I hear what Todd's Truth is saying and everyone else is saying. It's kind of making the right choice for you, and there is no bad choice. I think it's just deciding what's right for you as a creator. It's like me. I'm not getting any younger, so I got to put my stuff out. I got to get
right.
Honest, so,
I did the I guess you could call it the ghetto trademark when I was a kid. I mailed myself the envelope.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah. I've done that before too. Yep.
I've done that too, but it only covers you for so long. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm gonna time seal it and open it. And it's kind of like, the thing about it is everybody knows about IP now. Everyone knows about the importance of trademarking and copyrights. And I think if this is something that you actually spend real money on investing and producing, then it's different once you have something in print, right? That gives you more of a leg to stand on saying, this is a drawing I did that you're showing to the whole world. You're like, hey, I need 4 issues of super duper Skullman or, Evil Skullman or whatever, right? Then that's a little different. It gives you more of a leg to stand on, but you still at some point should file, because you got to protect yourself, man. Like, it's kind of like, as a single guy or a single girl, you want to make sure you're protected. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, you got like. What I'm saying is, okay, maybe that's the wrong analogy. What I'm saying is like, like protected by Viper. You have that car alarm. It's like, people know, like, hey, man, like, you want to protect yourself. You want to make sure you're safe. So, because that's the thing that a lot of creators don't really know or understand, and you only figure this stuff out after the fact, and by then it might be too late. So this is something that's the whole legal end of comics that you really don't know or understand, and that's something that creators need to figure out. Like, again, Gamal has a great book out. Gamal Hennessy put out a book via Kickstarter, but you can order it through a site. I think it's like $20, but it's the legal side of comics. So
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah,
write it down.
Yeah, it's a little dry read, because it's just like, hey, look, this is what you need to do, dummy. And you're like, yeah, okay. It kind of boils it down to like why this stuff's important and why you should be doing it. But I think the main thing, though, is in the end, it's to protect you as a creator, because, Joe or Sean, what if you guys come up with the next thing that is the next Walking Dead or the next Star Wars?
Yeah.
Right.
And someone else takes that idea, and then that becomes the next thing instead. And it was based off of your idea. And what stings even worse is it's your buddy who stole it. Gosh.
Oh, that would be horrible.
Well, but that's the thing, though, is like, everybody who's in the comic business, especially if you're an indie creator, we're hustlers, man. So it's like, don't hate the game,
Right.
It's legalized.
Don't hate the game like this or whatever it's called. You want to. The thing is, you got to hustle, man. You got to cover your bases, and you got to watch yourself.
No, man, it's great advice. That's great advice, because as independent creators as we are, a lot of times when we're working on something, we want to show it all the time, because we want to get people to follow us and to be like, oh, that sounds
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's what you want to do. You know, you're trying to sell yourself. You're trying to sell your product, especially with the campaigning that is so big right now in indie comics. Is like you want to really get it out there, and I think that's probably something none of us really think about when it comes to that.
Yeah,
that aspect of it.
I'd always say look into it because Leandro is saying he wants to put some things on Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, Leandro, if you want to do that, you can. I'm not saying don't, but I think if this is something that you're planning on launching as a comic title, like within the next year or so, like, dude, just hold on to it and wait. Just file your paperwork or get things started, or at least get 2 issues worth of content out or in the can, and then do a Kickstarter and then put your 2 issues out right away as fast as you can, like within a couple months of each other. All right,
Jamie. Thanks for joining us.
But you know, you want to get yourself out there as fast as you can because then it kind of gives you more of a leg to stand on. But at some point, like if you're gonna put content out there that you want to turn into IP, intellectual property, at some point it's smart to kind of get it trademarked and copyrighted and stuff like that. And you can do the copyright stuff yourself. I mean, you can't do that, but the difference between copyright and trademark are night and day. I mean, trademark is like the benchmark of like, hey, this is my thing. This is like, hey. So if somebody's going to come out with something that is similar, like you have Super Skull Man and someone's going to come out with Evil Skull Man book, you say, sorry, man, you know, it's too similar to my trademark thing. You can't do this. You're going to have to think of something else. Because then that's infringement. It's like if I put out a book called Super Duper Man, DC's going to be like, nice try, buddy, but it's too close to Superman. You can't because it's trademark, you know.
Right. No, I mean,
yeah.
Really that makes a lot of sense. It definitely something we definitely have to keep consider as independent creators. So I had been holding on to a question here.
Yeah.
What is your favorite character you've had a chance to work on, and what's a character that you would like to work on that you haven't had a chance to do yet?
Favorite character, it's kind of a tie between Spawn and then probably the Teen Titans, because that's something I always wanted to do since like Jump Street. When I first broke into comics, like it was Teen Titans. It was something that I really loved and wanted to do and be part of and contribute to more than just art. You know, I wanted to help contribute to the story and do all this stuff and like add a narrative on that. Hopefully someday I'll be able to get to do that and kind of finish.
That'd be awesome.
Like do that run right. Yeah. But you know, hey, I still got to work on both, so it's like, hey, life is not too bad. I'm not crying into a bucket or anything, you know.
Right.
That Spawn run was awesome.
You know, yeah, like a lot of people, like, so everything that's happening in Spawn now is because of our run.
Yeah.
Some of the things we try to set up was from that run. So, like, I wish we could have kept that run going. It just, you know, it is what it is. You know, I think it just wasn't the same book after Paul decided to leave. But I mean, it's, you know, it's cool. Like Spawn is back in a big way. Like it's crazy. Like Todd's got this huge renaissance out in himself and his creation. So I think I'm glad that he's finally putting out more than one thing. Because I told him, like, look, dude, you should do more than one Spawn book. Focus on other Spawns. He has all this, like, I kept telling him, like, dude, you got all these, you got like Raven Spawn and Gunslinger Spawn. Like, these are toys. You should do something with these characters to make them connected to the Spawn universe more because, like, you know, like, you had it, might as well use it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to finally see him doing that a little bit more, you know? It's, and the fact that he's, well, okay, so I've said this before that when I grew up, I was a huge fan of Image Comics. That was my company. That was my number one support, you know, in the 90s. And it's not that Image isn't the same as what it used to be, you know. And I think, you know, it could benefit from something that like what Todd is doing, which is kind of creating his own pocket universe and expanding it and bringing in new creators and, you know, characters and giving a little bit more of that. It's not superheroes, so to speak, but it's more that kind of what it was like in the 90s, more like sci-fi, adventure, horror stuff, you know, which you're not getting right now.
Superhero horror. And it's kind of weird because, like, most indie titles or indie books or indie publishers, they have these expansion and retraction periods, kind of like Marvel and DC have these things too. Because like right now, DC is kind of in a retraction period now. So, but like Marvel did the same thing, you know, when they went bankrupt, you know, they retracted, pulled back, and restructured, and then relaunched even harder, and like they're even stronger now. So, I think indie titles are very much the same way. So, I think you're going to see a big bounce back from Image probably in the next couple of years. Because I mean, like losing Walking Dead with that closing, and then you know Invincible left to, you know. It's a shame that those books couldn't keep going because you know the Invincible cartoons coming out and things like that. So.
Paul asked, "What issues of Spawn, or like what was the run of Spawn that you did?" Paul's asking.
I did. Excuse me. I did the last. I think the last few pages of Spawn. I did the very last page of Spawn 250, but then some of the other pages were based off of my layouts from. It's kind of so I did I think 9 issues of Spawn. So I did Spawn the last pages of Spawn 250. I did Spawn Resurrection twice. One with Brian Wood, which no one ever saw. And then after he left, and then I redid it with Paul Jenkins.
Really?
We only reused like 3 pages of that whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So and then I did 251 through I think 257 or 258, something like that. So something like that. But a lot of the concepts and stuff like that we started, I think Todd's kind of picking up on because the idea of like their spawns fighting other spawns like was something we had talked about. Like I had talked about with Todd specifically because it would be really cool to have like Highlander with spawns with the portals closed.
Oh yeah,
all the spawns are coming out of the woodwork now because they were hiding from Malboja and the demons. But now that they're gone, it's like, well, there's some good spawns and good bad spawns, and they kill each other and take each other's power. It would be kind of cool. So Todd's kind of doing something like that with the Omega spawn now. So it's nice.
That's not a bad idea. Oh.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I mean, it's like that's the thing is like it doesn't matter when you share ideas, you put it out there. It's like, you know, it's the only person who's up to if he wants to do it or not is Todd. So
right.
The fact that he's kind of picking up on it and doing it, I think is a really cool thing because then you're getting to use this rich universe of characters that he's mainly used in toys. They showed up like maybe 1 or 2 issues of Spawn and that was it. You're just like, okay, he's done. You're like, oh shit! Like I kind of like Mandarin Spawn. What's up with him? Like,
great design.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That is the cool thing with the Spawn character is designed to have so many different holders of the Spawn title throughout the years, centuries, the multiverse kind of thing. You know, you can just bring them all in now. So I mean, he definitely hit something with that idea. Now he's kind of fully embracing all these different spawns and. Really, you could make any version of Spawn he wants to, you know, for the rest of the time he's doing the book and put something out.
Right, like
people would love it.
That's what we're talking with Todd because the narrative on Spawn has changed quite a bit. We kind of retconned a lot of stuff with Resurrection a little bit, but that's the thing though is like at any time you could just say there's a multiverse spawns, different spawns or different versions, and like I always told Todd like you can just do whatever you want, and Todd agreed. He goes, "Yeah, I can do whatever I want because." All I can say is like, oh, well, this was a dream. He just woke up from this weird dream and all these issues, that was all a dream.
Right, yeah.
That was an alternate universe and went back and he's changing things or things like that. Like there's all kinds of stuff you can do to solve narrative. It kind of, the thing about it is, because what I respect about Todd the most is he's never going to restart Spawn on #1 again. He'll start a different title than #1. But he's very true to the numbering, which is really important. Because I agree with him. It's important to me because to say you have 300 plus issues nonstop and you're not selling out to just to do a #1, just to say you have a #1 is kind of cool.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think you know he's a pretty smart guy, man. I mean he's navigated some pretty crazy waters. You know, I mean Image was everyone's jam back in the day, man. Rock Image, like it was like so.
I miss that version of Image. Not that it would ever be that way again, but I miss the whole idea of. I know that all the studios were separate, but they still had a semi-shared universe where they still crossed over with certain studios, and you saw characters pop up all over the place. So I miss the original Image universe the way it used to be. And I remember somebody not too long ago was talking about them bringing back the superhero universe to Image. I don't know whatever happened with that. It must have fallen through.
I think they're working on it. I think Crossovers is actually going to be kind of working on that, like whatever Donny Cates is working on, because he's bringing a lot of creators to his books. So, which is actually a smart move, because he's bringing back all these indie books back into his book to kind of like shine a light on these characters again, which is pretty smart. So it's a good way to re-expose people to, you know, what's old is new again. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, be interesting to see, because like I think Donnie has it figured out where all his books are kind of interconnected. So, yeah. So Crossovers is connected with God Country and a bunch of other books. So, yeah, it's pretty smart. I like interconnectivity myself, because it's kind of like, you know, I think a lot of creators are doing that now. It's a popular thing to do. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if other creators weren't doing that. So, but I think Donnie's book is connected to that superhero resurgence. I think. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. Well, I know with
cool he's bringing back
Radiant Black.
Yeah.
You know,
I know with Radiant Black.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Joe.
I'm telling you, dude.
No,
my turn. Oh, no. One of these days, dude. One of these days. I know Radiant Black is supposed to be like kind of kicking off the new.
Yeah. Yep.
But I hadn't heard anything beyond that, so I wasn't quite sure what they were planning on doing. And then Todd comes out and is talking about the stuff he's doing. So I'm assuming that's separate from everything that's going on with Radiant Black. And I think David Finch has a book he's working on. I think that's going to be coming out at Image at some point too. So who knows? Yeah, we might have something cool coming up. And no disrespect or anything to a lot of the books that come out, but when they kind of switched to like the super indies and they went away from superheroes and that kind of style of storytelling, it was really disappointing to me, because that's what I like. Artistically, that's what I like to follow, you know, character-wise, story-wise. And, you know, some of the other books, they're just, you know, if I'm gonna read a comic book, I want to read about heroes or monsters, you know, in action. You know, like some of the other stuff that's like more drama-based, or it's not for me. You know, so and that was a heartbreaking thing with Image when they kind of went the way they did, and I understand why they did, but still,
I think it's that expansion and retraction. I think the thing about it that you always got to keep in mind too with comic creators is superheroes dominate, you know, corporate comics, and those of us in corporate comics, if we're working on a book, it's probably a superhero book,
right? You
know, and you get really burnt out on those really quick. So usually when you're doing anything, you want to do something that's the polar opposite of that, because you're just like, dude. I try another one. I'm really just gonna lose it. Like I want to do something that's a little bit more personal, that's different from all this other stuff. So I mean, like my book is more sci-fi and sword and sorcery. So it's not tights at all. But doesn't mean I don't have an idea for a tight story. It just like man, I don't want to.
Well, it's not. To me, it's not so much like the superhero. You know, it's a good way to just kind of throw a name out there. But yeah, anything.
I know what you mean. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. You know, like The Darkness and Spawn, you know, those aren't superhero books, but they fall in that cool battle chasers, you know, same thing, you know, like it's a fantasy, but you know, I kind of clump it into that area. And that when I say that kind of stuff, it's because I like, you know, the art, the artists, the aspect of like the beautiful art is what I really like about comic books. And sometimes indie books can go with a lesser art.
Right.
To you know what I'm saying, to get the book out, and as an artist and someone that follows a certain style of art that impresses me, that's kind of the thing that kind of sucks me out of it, so to speak. Sometimes, you know. What's going on, Chauncey?
Hey, Chauncey.
Well, you're an art-driven guy, man. That's why I think that's the first thing is like, hey, you're about the art first, and then the narrative second.
Right.
Yeah, I get that. I understand. I think it's always like. It's always kind of a trade-off too, because sometimes, like, again, as artists, we're always stuck in certain corporate styles a little bit, and sometimes when you do your own anything, you kind of want to do something that's a little bit different. Because my stuff's going to be a little bit more animated, a little bit more manga heavier. That's stuff that I always wanted to do, and they're like, no, it's got to be more. Like, why? So,
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But hey, before I answer Chauncey's question,
Yeah.
I just drank like 2 cups of coffee here. Can I take a quick break real quick? I'll be right back.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be right back.
All right.
Cool. Shelby launches today too. His campaign.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's launched, if it's live yet.
So while we're waiting for JonBoy to come back, you want to bring up our schedule real quick, and we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing for the rest of the month, and we're going to be heading into April.
All right. So next Wednesday we have Z Comics.
Finally.
Yeah, because we thought we were in April. When we were really in March, so that's on us. Next Friday, we have Eddie Winkler.
That'd be fun.
The return of Playful Gorilla, Alex Rivera. Then TJ will be back on the 9th. Oh, April 3rd will be Sketch and Stuff too. So let's talk about that for a bit.
Okay, so and real quick, we have Mandy coming on. Mandy Summers. I think
when?
The last Wednesday of it might be the last Wednesday. March or April. I'll have to look at my schedule.
Okay.
But yeah, she's gonna come on. It's gonna be that'll be fun. That'd be fun. Oh, he's back.
I'm back. I washed my hands too, so
that was quick, man. That was quick. I thought we were gonna have to jump into a subject matter, and that was good.
Sorry, came back. What I missed?
See, like if I have to go to the bathroom under pressure, it usually takes longer because I'm like, oh shoot, yeah, everyone's waiting, and then it doesn't come. It's like the stage fright. I'm like,
it's like everyone's watching you.
Yeah, it's like everyone's watching me, and like, damn it, what is going on?
Yeah, that's awkward. I've had some friends tell me some weird bathroom stories at shows. Like I had a buddy tell me he went to go, use the head, and he's using the bathroom, and some dude came in and like, "Hey, dude, you're blah blah blah." And he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?"
Can I have an autograph? Like, no.
It's like, hey, just kind of, like, can you get out of my personal space here for a minute?
Yeah.
That's why I always use the stalls, people. Private, as private as you can get in a public bathroom. Use the stalls.
It's scary to do number 2 at a bigger convention.
That's why NYCC. It's like, at New York Comic Con, you're like, where do I go? There's no privacy.
Well, yeah, it's kind of weird, but then people pee on the seat.
It's very disgusting when it's.
Yeah, I'm sure ladies are much cleaner than we are. You're just like.
That's what they say, but don't ask me how I know this. But I've been in a few different ladies' bathrooms. No weirdness. It was just a circumstance.
You gotta go. Yeah.
No, well, it wasn't even for that. It was like, whether I was cleaning it, whatever. I'm just saying. And they're not as clean as everyone wants to say. Just saying.
I don't know. I went into one. They had like a lounge and a couch.
Whoa. Yeah. Okay. Design wise,
this like to hang out and talk. Like
design wise, yes. Design wise, like they do it up. Yeah, you're right. There's like luxury in there compared to a guy's bathroom. But I'm just talking about the cleanliness. I've seen some things.
Wow.
And I've been in a situation where I had to clean some things. And that's as far as I'm going to go into it. So dropping deuces. That's right. That's what. Okay. So yeah, back to Chauncey's question. So Chauncey asked, can you describe your drawing routine, how often you draw, how many hours per day, and how you break up the day with drawing?
Oh, good question. So the perfect day is what I call Groundhog Day. Okay, Groundhog Day is every day is exactly the same, and they're always productive days. That's the days. That's what I call them, Groundhog Days. I'll even try to wear the similar outfit, like days and a t-shirt, and I just go to work. But usually I'm up around 5. I work out, shower, go back to work. Eat breakfast, and then I'm working about probably 8:30. I'm doing emails. 9 o'clock, get to work to about 12 noon, break for lunch, back to work till about 3, go outside, take a walk, get some fresh air, come back, work for another hour or 2, cook dinner, hang out with my wife, watch a little TV, go back to work, and then try to go work till about maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock, shower, go to bed, do it all over again. I try to do that same routine every day because it's keeps you in the creative mindset where it's like, you know, nothing's changing just because every day I think it's just a weird self-induced paranoia that I do because you want every day to be like, I want to have a good production day. I want to get like a page and a half done. I want to do this. I want to get this many designs.
Right.
And it's kind of like trying to repeat the same process so you're in the same mindset. It's really, golly, it does sound like it's like ritual like athletes go through. It's not like I'm wearing the same shirt or anything. Nothing. I guess it's the same concept. But so usually you're looking at like anywhere from like an average like 8 hours to like maybe 12 to 14 hour days, depends what I'm doing. But I don't do all-nighters anymore because like, here's the thing about working all-nighters. If you work all-nighters all the time, it's not healthy. And the only person responsible for your health is you. And publishers will chain you to a desk if they can to make you get work done. And you got to be able to self-motivate and keep normal hours for yourself and keep yourself healthy. But the thing is, the all-nighter is for the night before your project is due. You try to get as much as you can done so you can invoice. That's the all-nighter. It's like, okay, I got to hit 10 pages so I can make some money and pay bills. Or to get this off to the printer. Like, there you go. But if you do that all the time, then it kind of defeats the purpose. Then you're just creating a pattern where you're always working 15, 16, 20-hour days. Like, that's not good for you. So,
I mean, yeah, that's pretty to health issues.
Yeah. And you want to try to keep normal hours. Like, for me, like 8 to 12-hour day is pretty good for me. Like, that's normal for me because I get a good workout in, I do that, and that's good. You know, I think you just got to find a way that works best for you as a creator. You know, because like when I was younger, I worked like, you know, I work construction, come home, eat, and then go to work all night till like 1 o'clock in the morning and get up at 6. You know, go back to work.
Right.
I'm old, man. I can't do that anymore. I'm not but you know, that's when I was hungry and stupid. Now, when you're older, you want to make smarter decisions about like how you approach work and what you do and things like that. Like, try to use your time a lot wiser. You know, it's easy to get stuck on YouTube or the internet, and then you're just down this rabbit hole. You're like, oh man, I was talking to my buddies for like 3 hours about Justice League. Oh, my life sucks. You know, you're like, oh. Having your life choices, you know, you don't want to do that.
What's some advice you would tell the younger you? Like, relax on that. Keep what you're doing. Would it be artistically, business side, or just like how you are now? You're like, I would kind of run my own schedule.
I would tell younger me to, oh man, there's so much. Like, I've screwed up so much. So
at least you're consistent.
Well, the thing is, so I guess the thing you need to remember is being a comic, you don't want to look at yourself just as an artist. You want to treat yourself as a creator. The main thing I would say is learn to write and tell your own stories. The sooner the better, because that gives you an idea where you're not linked or dependent on a writer. You can do and create for yourself. That way you're not slave to something else or a process, because then you're like, well, I want to do creator own, but I don't know how to write. You know, and then you have to spend more time on that front end learning how to write. And it takes more time because, you know, I mean, I've been working on and off Princess Dracula for 10 years, working faithfully on it for the past 2 years, and coming to the point where I decided, like, you know, I need a team. So it's like, look, I need to hire an editor, and I'm probably going to hire a co-writer because there's only so much work I can do on this on my own, because I have to draw this as well. So it's like, if I can do the plot and do this other stuff, this higher end stuff, and then some of the dialogue, and have someone come in and help me with all that, that becomes a force multiplier for your time. So instead of taking 2 years now, I can get it done, everything within a year. So you got to make these micro decisions. You have to figure out what's right for you. You know, I think it's just, you want to work smarter and not harder. And you want to make new mistakes. You don't want to make the same mistake. If you make the same mistake, you're just not learning, and it's going to cost you somewhere down the road. You know,
right?
I think for me, the best advice I'd probably give younger me would be learn to write sooner, so you're not so dependent on these other guys to help you with narrative. You know what I mean? Because then you know, if you have these things figured out now, narrative and how to tell a story, coupled with doing great art, then it's kind of like, you know, do short stories and things like that, you know. Tell your own Batman story and just do it for fun when you have time.
Yeah.
You know, do it that way instead of being, you know, roped into, because once you're in this process of working for commerce and making money, you're really not going to have a lot of time to do that for yourself, you know, afterwards. It's really hard to find time.
There was, when I started trying to do my book, that was what I ran into, was the story. Because I can plot, I can world build, I can character build, backstories, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But when it actually sat down, it's like, all right, now I'm going to tell this story. It's like, how do I start? You know, how do I get to this point, and how do I end it? You know, like I know what I want to do, but I don't know how to tell it to the point where, and then you start, you know, questioning yourself. Like, is this a good start? Is this a good first issue? Is this, you know, like all that kind of stuff?
Actually, you're off to a really good start. I would say, actually, you've got it 75% figured out, Joe, because if you got the plot and everything, the basic beats down, you just write down what the beats are and what the plot is. You're like, beat 1, beat 2, this is what happens. Here does this, this happens, blah, 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 blah. You just do it in bullet points. Then you can get a lawyer to help you create a work for hire contract, and then you can reach out to writers that you like or people you want to work for. Say, hey, look, I've got a story here that I'm looking for a writer on. I like your stuff. Would you be interested? It'd be a strictly work for hire thing. You have to pay a rate. That's the thing.
Right. Yeah.
Unless you share like the IP with them, then they get rights, you know? So,
yeah.
And here's the thing. If you're going to do that, never get 50-50. Because if 50-50, then you're on the hook for your partner's bad decisions. If it's 51-49, then they can't do that because you're not equal partners. You need your permission in order to do it.
Yeah,
so,
graded.
So just keep that in mind. But you can hire somebody and you give them a contract to do that, to help you with the narrative parts. That way you're working on the story together. Kind of like what I'm doing, you're leveling up together as he's writing it. You're learning the process of writing because you're helping him because you wrote the plot. And you're helping each other flesh that out. Or you can hire an editor. If you want to really write it yourself, you can hire an editor who will help you out and help you collect your thoughts and then help you polish your story as you go. So that's good. Yeah. But you always want to do work for hire contract. So
yeah, I was going to say like that's actually what I ended up doing is I ended up reaching out to like a buddy of mine that was an independent writer, and we had linked each other to, like, we tried to work with each other a few different times in the past, and it just never worked out schedule wise. And so I finally reached out to him like, hey, I'm doing this project, you know, and it's right up his alley as far as like storytelling and stuff. So I was like, you want to jump on board and we can talk about it? But that was kind of my thing. We had a contract where he was coming in as a work for hire. We worked out what it would be. We worked out like rights are still all mine. So it's just like I'm coming in as he's just coming in to help me flesh out the story. Because I was like, look, I have all this plot, but my strength is not character building and stuff. So, you know, like when I got to a guy that actually knew how to write characters, and, you know, we sat down and he would ask certain questions like, why do we care about this character? You know, what's his journey going to be? How are we going to do this? And so through him, it was great because I did get a chance to sit down and see how the mind of a writer works and put my story together. And he basically took what I gave him, and then we kind of fleshed it out. And I was just like,
that's
like
great.
Now it's an actual story, you know? So, but now, like you said, I've been learning enough that I feel like maybe I will be able to go on in the future and tell my own story without having a co-writer to be on board with me, you know? So like, I think it was a necessary step because it was just, I needed to get over that hurdle, and I'm learning. I'm not over it yet, but I feel like I'm learning to get over that hurdle and to write better as well as draw. So yeah, I think that's excellent advice.
It's a process, right? That's the thing. It's like you're making mistakes, but you're learning from them. The contract is the most important thing, especially if you're working with friends, because that's the fastest way to not be friends anymore.
yeah.
I've had friends sue other friends, and it gets ugly, and then they pick sides, and you're just like, I was like, hey, man, that has nothing to do with me, man. It's like, hey,
right.
Like I told you day one, get a contract, but hey, you know, it's like, nah, we're boys. It's like this. It's like, no, man. It's like if you really love each other as friends, like you will definitely to do a contract, because then it protects everyone's interests. Like, hey, spells it out. It's crazy.
Yeah,
he actually had to convince me. Sorry.
No,
He actually had to convince me about the importance of contracts, because I was always the kind of guy I was like, let's do handshake agreements and blah blah blah.
No.
And he's like, no, dude. He's like, trust me. He's like, we're gonna do a contract. He's like, and anybody you bring onto the project, he's like, I'm gonna advise you to do contracts with them as well. So like, I brought in inkers and colorists and stuff like that to work on my project, and through him,
It's
we
more
worked
professional that way too.
Yes, and that was his point too. He's like,
okay.
so that was an eye opener too. You know, just kind of working with him in that aspect and pulling me out of this handshake agreement that could fall apart, or somebody could take stuff, you know, and it's a bigger problem in the end. So yeah, he was definitely a big asset to me when I started actually being serious about my book and putting it together. So
that's cool, man. Yeah, see, that's the way to go. What were you gonna say, Sean?
Yeah, Sean.
Pretty much the same thing. My best friend Mark Polton, he's a writer, but I'm like, would you mind being the editor on my book, because he has experience. I can't spell properly, so that's kind of important. You know, like I spell the THA. It just makes sense. But even when doing when I do work for him, we have contracts, because again, it's professional. It covers our asses. I'm not gonna fuck him over. He's not gonna fuck me over. But it's proper, and it's also to cover each other's asses. You know.
Yeah, it spells out your responsibilities and what everyone's role is, and it's either you did or you didn't do it, and that's it. And it's like, okay, you know, it keeps everything kind of on the up and up. I think.
Sure.
I think it's worth it. I mean, even if you just, you know, shell out $500 to get a template work for hire contract, you know, from an entertainment lawyer to help you drop that up or something like, then that's fine. But I mean, it gives you something, you know, an agreement between two people that you guys can do on something. Because usually when you just do a handshake and a high five, people will bail on you in a minute, you know, especially like, oh man, you know, hey, you know, I got this thing from Marvel. I'm just taking off now. You know, peace out. Sorry, man. You know, hey man, we got this contract. Like, you got to fulfill the contract. That's it. You know.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. No, it's.
You know, it's about responsibilities, and I think that's important. You know,
professionalism too. You know, like just being smarter business wise. You know.
Well, you can still do everything right, and things still fall apart. Because I've had plenty of those situations working in corporate comics where that happens, and you just come to the point where it's like you have the option of like, well, that's not the agreement anymore. We want to change it. It's either you have the option to stay or go. So what do you want to do? Like, you know, it's always an easy thing for me. It's like, hey, you know, now. But you know, I think contracts by and large are a really great way to keep people accountable, and you know, that's how professionals do it. And you want to be a professional working in a professional environment. That's what you should do. So,
right. Leandro had asked, obviously no one's going to cons right now, but when you do go to cons, which ones, the ones you usually, they can usually see you at?
WonderCon, which is also happening the 26th, which is in a couple of weeks, I think. WonderCon Online will be happening at home, so I'll be part of it. Hey, check it out. I'll definitely be doing WonderCon. I try to do as many LA shows as I can because I'm in California. I love LA, so it's like, hey.
Right.
What else? I'd probably be San Diego. Comic-Con Revolution in Ontario, California is a really great show. I try to do that. Long Beach is another great show. New York Comic-Con, I try to do it every other year. It's flying West Coast to East Coast. I feel like I lose my superpowers because everything is more out there. It's just like getting to the Javits in the hotels, and you got a lot of gear. It's just like, it's super impractical, man. It's such a pain, but I do it. It's for some reason it always costs me so much money to do the New York show versus the San Diego one. So, it's strange. But those are the main shows I do, and MegaCon, if I can do it, usually is another good show to do.
Yeah.
But sometimes I try to do some of the smaller boutique shows too. But I try to do at least 3 shows a year. And the ones I usually try to hit are WonderCon, San Diego, and New York if I can. So those are the 3 biggies in my mind.
You ever think about doing like C2E2 in Chicago? I'm not sure how many C2E2s they have, but Chicago's just the one closest.
Yeah,
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, no problem, Chauncey. Yeah, I like it, but I don't, because again, like, well, I like the show, but it's just like for me, it's always this. Again, it goes back to like my Groundhog Day thing. Like, if I do too many shows, like it takes me about a full week to get back in the swing of things to recover from shows. Sometimes you come out on crud. But, to get back in that groove of creating and that mindset again, it takes you a couple of days to kind of like get back into that groove. And the more shows you do, for me, it takes me really out of it. I'm like, dude, I just need to sit on the couch and just like read a book and don't deal with comics, because like shows take a lot out of creators. We're sketching, we're talking to people, we're selling, we're triple timing what we do. And you're just like, by the time it's done, I'm like, man, I don't want to do anything for a few days. I just need to just like not do anything.
Right. I feel you on that.
Yeah.
Because you got to put the show on. You're like you're selling yourself to people. Like,
yeah.
Like, hey, how you doing? And all this.
Yeah, you want to be high energy, and you want to be you want to engage, and you want to be energetic, and you want to. For me, I just want to make sure everyone has a good experience there. I want to make sure everyone knows how excited I am that they slept on my booth. I'm excited to meet them. I want to connect with people, because people taking the time to connect with my work. I want to make sure I want to connect with them, and you just want to make sure that everyone, like, I want to make sure everyone who stops by my booth has a really great experience, and I want them to know how much I appreciate them, because it's just like without them, there is no me. I have no career.
Sure.
There's
right.
So, but
perfect.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, you guys know, you guys do shows, and it's always a hustle, and you just want to make sure, it's like you try to do as much as you can, and it's just there's certain things I kind of had to stop doing, because I used to sign stacks and stacks of books for free until I would go back and then I'd look on eBay, and then I remember the guy who I sold stacks to, and they're selling them. They're like, oh, I'm like, oh, they're not fans. They're just
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so now I have an agent, and she's like, no, you charge for signatures. This is how much you're doing. This is what you're charging for that. She goes, don't worry about being the a-hole. She goes, I'll be the a-hole. You just, just focus on this. And, it's, I mean, it kind of sucks, because like I want to sign everything that comes my way, but in the back of me, I just know that people are just doing that to flip, to make money. And it's kind of like, I get it. It's like comics, but it's just like, I'm not some tool for you to just freaking make big money on.
Sure.
No, yeah.
It's just like, come on, man. Like
you said,
every Berserker #1, 1 in 1,000 cover for free if I could, but
right.
Everybody would turn around and sell that thing and try to make as much money as they can, and they'd be like, "Hey, thanks, JonBoy." In the back of my mind, "Thanks, John. I don't have to share any of this with you." And it's just like, there's nothing for their artists, and I don't want to keep that going. It's like, that's not right.
Well, like you said, and they're definitely not creators, because I don't think I've ever gotten rid of anything I've ever gotten signed. Like that is firmly in my collection.
Yeah.
And not that, the signatures I got are all from my heroes. So why would I want to get rid of that signature? That book means a lot to me, and the book with their signature means a lot to me. So like I want to hold on to that. So I totally get you on that.
Yeah.
Leandro's been dropping it quite a bit in the chat. So I'm gonna bring this up. So if you want to see a lot of JonBoy's work,
I need to update. I haven't updated with new art in a while. I've been kind of busy. So
yeah, well, understandably so.
Yeah.
But anyway, besides social media and whatnot, he does have a webpage, a very nice webpage. You can see a bunch of his awesome art here. Bio. I think this is when I brought up the cover for Venom 32. I came right here and I found it right off the bat. So
might have been in the shop. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Let's see here.
There it is. Yeah,
here we go. Yep.
Yeah,
so,
there's all cool stuff. Yeah. So. Awesome. Some people are asking me, I'm charging too much for remarks, but those are my last ones. So that's why they're out of not my collection, my agent's collection. So she holds on to like a couple, and then she goes, these are the ones that we'll sell, the last ones, usually the best ones. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, turtles. Love turtles. Yeah, turtles are great. So
having a representative or an agent is really important. I don't think a lot of people look. I'm a small ass fish. I'm a no name, but I do have a convention agent, and she takes care of that when shows happen, or even with like freelance work. I
Right.
get work on the side and keeps me in check, keeps the people in check, the clients in check, and there's no, whatever. I don't gotta deal with it.
I don't like being the bad guy, man. I don't like, come on, man. Like, you know what I mean? It just, you feel weird. You know, like my agent, she's like, hey, no worries. Like, hey, this is what you're getting. This is it. You're getting
Let
this.
somebody be the bad guy for you.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, well, hey, it's not me. It's her. Like,
Right.
Hey, she's telling me, like, sorry. So, but I mean, I think it's good to have somebody, because like my wife is always stressing this all the time. She goes, look, you need a team. You need a team. You need somebody on your team helping you out, because comics are not a one-man show as much as we think. Like, we're creators, and Frank Miller has a team. He has an agent. He has colorists. He has letterers. He has people around him who help him. You know what I mean? They're invested in that Frank Miller thing. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
you gotta have the Joe team. You gotta have the Sean team. You gotta have people looking out for you, helping you out. Fielding customers and keeping crazy people away from you, or like when conversations go way too long at a show, they're the ones that say, okay, guys, well, hey, JonBoy, you got to get back to work now. You're ignoring customers because you've had a 30-minute conversation about Justice League with this guy, and it's time to move on now. Come on. Like, don't ignore all these other cool people. Like, come on, get back to it. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. It's kind of nice to have somebody kind of keep you on point and keep you, like, eye on the ball kind of deal, because as accessible we want to be to everybody, it's like, you want to make sure everyone is getting some time to be able to connect, because I feel bad when people I'm like, oh, dude, come back. It's like, oh, we're talking about this thing. And some people just want to talk to you, like, hey, I just want to shake your hand. And it's like, hey, say hi and stuff like that. And you always want to make sure you're not missing those opportunities. Sometimes you don't have that. Once those opportunities are gone, like, oh, I saw you, but you were talking to somebody else. I didn't want to stop by and say hi. And I'm just like, dude, you should have just said hi. Feel free to interrupt. Like, hey, man, I just want to say hey. I'm like, oh, dude, cool. Because that's a great excuse for me to break off the conversation. I'm like, hey, man, like, I want to connect.
Right.
So
I have to. Reason why I just brought up this Bloodshot cover was when the series came out. I went. Obviously, I was collecting the run because of Brett Booth was on there, but I was disappointed that he didn't have a cover. But the only cover I bought was this one right here.
That's like the super expensive cover too, man. Like the bulletproof cover. That's cool.
Yeah, I was just gonna, because the rest of the covers, no offense to anybody, but like you said before, like, I'm drawn to the art, so like I want to be looking at a cool cover, and like this was one of them. I was like, yep, this is the one I'm getting.
That's cool. I appreciate that, man. Like, for me, I'm almost trying to like do something that will sell. Like, like people are kind of conditioned now for movie type posters. So I'm always like, okay, well, this is a number one. When I'm doing number ones, I always try to do like a movie type poster, kind of make it feel like Berserker is a movie type poster.
Oh yeah, it's such a great one. I love that.
But it kind of showcases people like, this is him and he looks awesome. Buy this book. That's always, but it's always kind of fun to do narrative ones too, where it has a little bit more of a story. But
yeah,
that's a powerful gesture.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I wanted to bring it up because of that. Like,
oh yeah, she's a little too busty there. I'm like looking back, I'm like, man, I should have made her not so like hard edge, a little bit softer, more feminine. But that's all right.
I would say I dig it.
Yeah, it's cool. I just
yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, your art is incredible. I mean, and you do some great covers too, like you were saying. Like, it has that real big feel to it. It does, you don't phone in any of these covers, that's for sure.
No, God, no. I never want to be like, if you're gonna pick up a book, even just for the cover, then you want to make sure that it's something that people have like, oh, I don't really care for the guts, but the cover is really good. I'm gonna pick it up. Because as an artist, it gives you an idea, you know what I mean? It's like I always have art all around me when I'm drawing. So it's like, hey, and for me, again, everything has always got a sense of motion to it. There's always particles or something moving or
energy, a lot of energy. Yeah,
energy for me. And it's like, even this, it's a still shot. It still kind of feels like it's trying to like kind of sucks you in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But like
that's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, it's still one of my
just
favorite covers. The Riot cover.
Love that.
Really cool,
Yep.
you know? Yeah.
So nice.
I love that character. I love the Valiant
cool.
Universe characters. I just get back to their core a little bit more.
Right.
Straight a little bit. I think if the connectivity is what makes those books stronger, and if they could get back to that, I think it'd be better. I think. But,
Yeah, I was just gonna say the funny thing is, I was never a huge fan of Valiant growing up in the '90s. I liked a handful of characters, but when you have art like this and like Brett Booth coming on and doing stuff for Valiant, that was like kind of the first time I started buying stuff. And I will buy books just for the cover. I won't do it all the time, but if there's a cover that really brings me on, but like you said, the inside is just like, I'm never going to read this because I just don't like the art, but the cover is awesome, I'm going to do it. I'm just one of those guys that's going to pick it up because I want to look at that art, you know?
Yeah, me too. Yeah, totally. 100%. Yeah. It's, I wish there was a easier, like with this NFT thing going around, I wish I could take some of my covers and make them NFTs, like, you know, the digital art and stuff like that. There's, you know, it just doesn't feel right to take someone else's creations and do that and make money. But if they're going to do that of your own art, the idea is they should give the artist back in on that. But I doubt that they're going to do that when it happens. So I sincerely doubt it.
Yeah, I've read a little bit about that, but I haven't looked too much into it. But I've seen a lot of people talking about that as a subject matter lately.
Yeah. I think the copyright holders aren't going to share any of that money with anybody. So
sounds like it. Yeah,
it's kind of because it gets into a gray area because as artists, when we produce comics for print, it's like, okay, well, we get to keep it and sell the original art. NFT is just like that same concept, except it's digital, and the artist is always making money off of that afterwards. So, you know, digital's changed the entire landscape. So I don't know how this is all going to pan out. You know, I think that the verdict is still out. So
I mean, that's kind of a good question I haven't even thought about yet. So do you draw digitally now, or you still do a lot of traditional, or are you kind of a hybrid?
I do both. Like all my layouts are digital, just for the simple fact that that's what publishers expect, and it's a lot easier to do patches. So back in the day, I used to just do it on 8.5 by 11 paper, and I used to sell those roughs at shows.
Oh, okay.
If the publisher wanted a change, like, oh, you know what, take the gun out. I don't want, you know, Berserker to have the AR-15. Can you take it out? I'm like, all right, so I got to redraw that whole thing. But digitally, what I do is those assets I actually leave on a layer. So take the gun out, and I can just read on top of the bottom layers. It's so much easier. And then I just, you know, print on blue line and ink on top of that, or I'll just print it and lightbox it, and then that's it. So I'm still in this mode of like having, you know, original art. Like that's so old school, but I've done a lot of stuff digital. So, oh, and yes. Heroin Bird was saying, yeah, I don't have Twitter anymore. I actually got off Twitter.
You're smart.
Too toxic.
Yeah.
I can't.
Pretty smart.
Yeah. Like my feed just got dominated by all this political BS. Like I'm not political at all. I don't subscribe to any of that stuff. You know what?
Hey, Mandy.
Hey, Mandy.
Do their own thing. Oh, thanks, Mandy. But yeah, I'm all about art and comics and really cool. Just like keep positive. Like let's talk about some cool stuff. Let's talk about art. It's like you know,
like it should be. You know, like that's really what it should be. You know.
Yeah, like we should. There shouldn't be any judgments made on like what book somebody likes versus someone else, and people shaming people because they like. You know, as a guy, I like to read Wonder Woman, and people are like, "Oh, how dare you?" You know,
right?
I like boobs. I'm a dude. Like, I can't change that.
Well, I like Wonder Woman. I'm a Wonder Woman fan. Like, hey, man. So you know, like, it's kind of like we're like, I think it's asinine to like for people to judge you based off of like, just because I don't like the same things or I have a different opinion than you, it doesn't mean we can't be friends. It's like, hey man, this is America still. We can still have difference of opinions and still like the same stuff or certain things and be okay with that. It's like, hey man.
And that's supposed to be the beauty of it.
Not on Twitter. Apparently you can't do that.
No, yeah, not on Twitter. No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, trust me, there's been a bunch of times where I've wanted to get rid of my social media. The thing that's held me back is like, unfortunately, sometimes it's the only way for me, a no-name guy, to really get the art out is you got to be on this social media. And a lot of times it sucks. It was the same way when I was in a band. I hated being on social media, but you had to have your music out there. You had to have people following you. Right. Otherwise, no one's going to really come and support. Not like in the old days, it's like
well, I think
it's a necessary evil, I guess, right now.
Yeah, I think it's just picking which is the lesser of the evils. Because like for me, Twitter is just a no-go. But like, Instagram is all about art. Facebook, I make it about art. I block out all the negative stuff. I'm more about like, when I first started, I would work for anybody for free just to get my work out.
Right.
Blast people like, hey, you need a pin up, you need cover, I'll do it for free. I pay my friends because I worked a regular job at that time too. I'll pay my friends to color it, just put it out like, here you go for free, take it, just print it, send me some copies because you're building up your presence, and then you can post like, hey, I did this cover for this, I did that. You want to create that's a thing. So that's another thing. A tool I have a wall calendar that you just tear off, and the things I tear off I still keep. But every day that I'm doing something productive, like working on my creator-owned book, I have this specifically for my creator-owned book. Every time I'm working on my creator-owned book, on that day I will put an X. And the idea about that is you want to be able to see and chart your momentum as a creator with the projects that you're involved in. Because then after a while, you're going to see, like, in the beginning, you only see a couple X's. But
right.
Over time, you're going to see, like, every day is a red X. You're like, oh, cool, I'm creating momentum. I'm working on my book, my project, or this. And it's a really good way to chart and motivate yourself, too. Because that's how you actually get good, is when you're keeping momentum going and you're improving on that one thing or two things that you're doing, and you're building off of that. That's something I've always done. That's something I still do. So really good tool. I mean, it doesn't work for everybody. It works for me. But it's something to think about. So,
let me see. Let me close out this real quick. Crap. I did it again. I lost my train of thought.
No.
What? No, it's I'm listening to you. I'm looking at the art. I'm looking at the chat, and like every once in a while, I have this thing in my head, and I can feel it slowly slipping away, and then it's gone.
It's called old age, my friend.
I guess, man.
I know. Yeah.
It's either with the show. Joe runs the show. He like you said, takes care of the chat, this and that, and I'm just here to be the idiot, So.
No, it's like no. You're like everybody needs like an Ed McMahon or an Andy, like what I mean. Yeah, you need somebody to kind of like be your backup dude, like kind of like keep things going, So it's it's cool, man. Like because in your lulls, Sean, you can always just jump in and say, yeah, that's right. I love doing commissions, by the way. I just never have time to do them anymore.
I was actually that was one of the things I was going to ask because I saw that your commissions are closed right now, but I want to pull up some of these commissions because there's some sick art in here.
Oh, they're all old though, man. So old. I gotta change the art out. It's just so old. It's like,
I think I already pulled it up.
What's the wildest request that you got? And you're like, I can't do that.
It involved like trademark characters and animals doing things that shouldn't be done.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, the fluffy guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I can't do that, man. Like, here's the thing too. So I think everybody can do their own thing. I think just publishers do see who's doing art like that and who isn't. Because you understand branding is so important. So when an artist is on a book, you're bringing that crowd who follows your work onto that book. Sure. And if you're known for drawing, women who have sex with animals, that is your thing.
Right.
Working on like a big brand like Superman, it's probably not going to be a good fit, So,
yeah.
because that is just it's branding, you know what I mean? Like Superman is a brand, Batman is a brand. Everything has to fit within that package of branding. So you got to remember that. It may feel discriminatory, but that's the honest truth. That's kind of how things are, you know. So you always want to kind of be conscious of that. Like, you know, if you're doing a lot of like, you know, artwork that is considered outside the scope of normal comics genre, you know, publishers do look at that and consider that. So they're like, when they look at you, like, well, you might not be a good fit for this book.
Right.
We might put you on like a Conan type book or a horror book or a mature reader's book. And you're just like, oh, you just type it yourself. You know what I mean? So you just gotta be careful. Always be careful.
And also, I mean, we were talking with Ian Churchill not too long ago on one of our streams, and he was talking about not wanting to do kind of disrespectful things with other people's characters too.
Right. Yeah, I was the same way. Like, yeah, I'm not drawing Rogue doing that to.
Right.
Yeah, I can't do it, man. Like, for me as a fan, I would not want to do it because I wouldn't want someone doing that with my creator-owned properties. Like, hey, I'd feel sad. Oh,
yeah. So Herrenberg said, which Danger Girl series did you do for Campbell and Hartnell, and do you happen to know how close they are to finally making the movie? I didn't even know they were working on a movie.
That was like 2 years ago, so it might be.
Simple Jack, what's going on?
Hey, Simple Jack.
Simple Jack. Yeah. I love it.
Danger, I worked on it with Nick Bradshaw. That was Danger Girl Body Shots. I worked on, I think, issues, I want to say 3 and 4 or 2 and 3, something like that. And I think the movie might have gotten optioned, but options usually run 2 to 3 years. So they have been made in that time. Then the rights revert back. So usually Hollywood is kind of a strange thing. So if they option something for, like, say, animation, it's really not a lot of money. You'll be lucky if you get $20,000 for an option. It's when it gets greenlit into production is when you make more money. So it might have gotten optioned, but it might not be moved into production. So I always thought
sometimes people do that to hold on to the rights so they can't put it out because they may have something else. You know, it's like
so. Here's another fun thing. So animation companies are notorious for doing this. So. Because the option to pay money for option, let's say you have a really cool sci-fi idea, and a big entity that does animation or movies likes your idea and options it, and they pay like $20,000. They option it for 5 years. The thing that you need to make sure in your contract negotiations and discussions is they're not developing something in tandem that's similar to yours. So what they do is they'll pay you $20,000 to sit on your book and not do anything with it while they're developing something that is similar that they'll own 100%. And then they'll put it out and let your rights come back and say, go ahead. Everyone will look like you copied us, so who cares? So, well, I mean, these are the things that this is why it's always good to have an entertainment lawyer on your side when you start throwing things out. If you have movie production companies and television companies approach you, say, who's your representation for this? They say, you know what? Let me get back to you on it. Let me take your card, and I can pass it off to you later on. Then you want to find a good entertainment lawyer, preferably in LA, who works in the entertainment business specifically, optioning, who works and understands publishing and can bring things forward as far as, you know, making sure you get a good deal and don't get screwed when you deal with options. So for movies or television or whatever. So.
I'll say a lot of great knowledge being dropped in the stream by you tonight, like stuff that we've never really talked about and never really thought about that kind of stuff. So I mean, that's great to know.
Well, it's been done to me or it's been done to my friends, and it's kind of like that's the thing is, again, you want to make new mistakes, don't make the same ones. So you want to learn. If you see your friends go through this, you want to take notes and say, okay, yeah, I don't want to go through that again. You know, you don't want to, you know, so. Yeah, it's those are bad lessons to learn, man. Sometimes really expensive lessons too, because I've met creators where they actually signed development deals that had a rider attached to it, to where, you know, if the studio invests money into it and they let the rights lapse, for development, whoever picks it up has to pay the studio the money for development. So let's say you have a sci-fi book, and let's say Warner Brothers options it for 5 years, and they sink $8 million into your property, and it just never goes off the ground. And say Disney is interested in it now. So in order for Disney to option it, they have to pay Warner Brothers the $8 million that they already have invested in the IP to get that money back. And this is why a lot of stuff doesn't happen, because the rights are tied up somewhere else. Has a bill attached to it for development rights, so you have to pay another studio for. And it's just $8 million. Just like, well, we can just roll that into a different movie, and we don't have to deal with this. And they usually don't. So
right.
All these funny things, man. When you hear these stories for your friends, like, why did your movie get made? They're like, well, this is what happened. I'm like, dude, that sucks. And they're like, yeah, I should have waited. I should have taken the $200,000 or whatever. So, it happens. I mean, it's just, you just never know. I mean, that's why I was saying the fact that movies get made for superhero options or books is just a miracle in themselves, because it takes a long time for that to happen, for it to make it through and actually survive and actually get made, As bad as we think some comic book movies are, it was a struggle and a fight and compromises in order for that movie to get made, And sometimes those compromises don't pan out,
Right.
Like the Snyder cut prevailed versus the Whedon cut, which did not. But Joss probably gave Warner Brothers the movie they wanted, So yeah. Anyway.
And real quick, I just want to say shout out to Mandy Summers, who jumped into the chat. She will be on the show on the 31st of March. So everybody keep that in mind. Check that out. So we're really excited to talk to her. I'm going to, let's see, pull this out. So yeah, anybody check out that site.
Yes. Yeah. Check out my site. I have a store.
He's going to update it at some point.
Yeah, I need to. I've been busy. So I got a lot going on. I got a lot on my plate right now. So
yeah, but it's got a lot of his great art, and obviously you can, if you just Google his name, I mean, a ton of awesome art just pops up. I did that earlier today when I was putting together the show banner, and I was just like, man, how do I choose all this cool art? And I only got like a certain amount of space I can put stuff in, and I got covered up with words and stuff. But I was like, man, just like,
I appreciate the love.
So
man.
good.
Thank you very much. It means a lot. It's like you work in a bubble, and you're just wondering, like, do people actually like my work?
Oh,
I think that's I don't know if you guys struggle with it, but I struggle with this all the time. Is like imposter syndrome.
I was going to ask you that. When
just
do you feel like you don't feel like a fraud?
Oh, I just feel like I can't draw. I suck.
all the time.
No
all
good.
the time.
I can't draw like my heroes. Like, it's got to be like this. And you're just like, oh, it's just like, it's the worst, man. Like,
We deal with it all the time. It's actually kind of nice hearing that guys have been in the industry for so long and have had the success.
Everybody I know, all my friends,
deals with it.
We deal with it all the time. They're like, dude, I can't draw shit today. I feel like a big phony. Like, nobody likes my stuff, man. Look at that. Like, and it's yeah, we struggle with it, dude. Like, struggle is real, man. It's you're not the only ones who feel it. Like, and couple that with, this is your whole job. So if you don't get stuff done, you don't get paid, man. So that's like no pressure there, right? It's like,
true. I mean, Sean can tell you there are tons of times we'll just talk, because he and I are our biggest supporters with our projects, getting them out. But there are times where, like, I'll just be stumped working on my book, and maybe I've got a commission, I've got some extra paid work I'm going to focus on.
Right.
And for some reason, I'll just wake up one day and I'll feel like I forgot how to draw. Like, my layouts are looking like crap. The anatomy looks like shit. And I'm just like, I forgot how to draw. It's just the weirdest thing. And I'll go through this like little slump where it's like, I can't draw anymore. That's it. My career's over. Time to move on. And then I'll get out of it and I'll come back. And for some reason, I'll find the groove and I'll be fine. But
that's my
I don't know what it is.
I want Groundhog Day. I want to be productive every day. I want it to be the same. That way, I don't get freaked out. I don't get you don't like self-doubt. Like, there's some days where you're unstoppable and you don't want to stop, but you have to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then when you get up the next day, you just can't draw anything. You're just like, oh.
then Joe comes with me with his feelings and his personal, like, you got a wife. What are you dealing with me for? You know, like, no, but it's great. It's a great team that Joe and I are. Like, it's like
you got to encourage each other. I think that's what you guys need. Like, it's like you pick each other up when you feel down, because like I think that's the thing is like when you're having a hard time, the thing I go back to is like I go back to looking at my hard heroes and trying to get inspired again and saying, okay, these guys in my mind are the bar, and I gotta like, okay, like pick yourself up and just do it again, because you know, that page isn't going to get done by itself, and you got to get it done, and you just got to find a way to do it and push through it. And it's good to have encouragement, you know, people believe in you, because again, it goes back to, man, like who's on your team, man. You always got to remember, like, this is not as much as people think it is, it's not a one-man show. You have people in the background, like a wife or a best friend or another artist, people who are always pushing you and supporting you. And that's what kind of gets you through things, that gets you through block, that gets you through self-doubt, that gets you through the tough times of like, you know, that struggle. But you got to remember, like in comics, that struggle helps you build a really strong foundation for who you're going to be going forward. Because if you make it too fast, too soon, you don't appreciate what you have, and you become a huge asshole. You know, you know, you're just like, oh, I'm unstoppable. I'm so great.
Yeah.
You know, Kool-Aid, you know, and you don't ever want to do that. But you got to remember where you came from and how hard you worked to get there. Because I always hate it when, like, in the announcement, young new talent, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, motherfucker, I've been here for like 15 years doing I'm like, dude, I'm not new. I'm not young. Like, I've been working really hard to get here. Sorry, I don't mean, I mean, it's just like, you're just kind of like, it sends, I feel like it sends the wrong message out to people. And it's just like, well, he just discovered me off the street. Like, I was just drying on shoe boxes and they found me and like, here you are. And it's like, no, man, I've been like sweating bullets for like all this time and trying to get better and do better, you know?
Right.
It's always
respect is key. Respect is key to the guys that came before you. If they're not a cunt.
Well,
a piece of shit.
I think at some point, you know, ideas become the institutions, and sometimes, you know, we always kind of become too big for our britches, but it's always good to have a core group of people who can kind of bring us back down to earth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like Michael Jordan. When Michael Jordan grew the Hitler mustache, who in your friends clique would let you do that? I'd be like, hey, Mike, I love you, man, but like, as your friend and someone who loves you and cares about you, you can't do the Hitler mustache. You're not the guy to bring that back and make that.
You gotta shave that, bro. You gotta shave that.
Nobody is.
But you see what I'm saying, though? You think like these things, but then you have people who bring you back down to earth, because it's good to get your bubble popped a little bit and grounded, because it's just as good as you think you are. There's someone who's like 16 years old who's just crushing it, man. You go to and man, people are like crushing it, you know. And I think that's a thing that like you always got around. Like, you know what? Like, stay humble. Hey, you know, peaks and valleys. Like, I'm on the mountaintop. Hey, high five. All right, let's pour Gatorade on myself. Great, awesome. All right. Go back down the valley, do it all over again, and then hit that next one and try to get better and better. Because the race you're really always running is your own race, and you don't, as much as you want to compare yourself to somebody else.
That's a good point.
You don't. You just like, you want to just be you as much as you can. And it's good to have your influences and do all that. That's cool. It's just at the end of the day, you just got to try to, like, I'm me, and I got to run my own race, because what worked for this artist and how he got in and how everything opened up for him might not exactly happen the same way for me. You know, the thing is, there are many roadmaps to success, and it's always good to understand people's stories, because usually it's a good roadmap. Because if you do the same thing as they did, you will probably hit a certain level of success. It might not be the same level as they hit, but you might come close, or it might open up doors for you. So that it's a good way to learn. But at the same time, you can't compare everything that you are doing with them, because you're at different levels of development and things like that. And it's just not, you know, you don't, just be fair to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Love yourself, man. Don't.
Yeah.
You know, we
No,
it's up enough as
It's
art.
like, where's my Deadpool? You know, like, come on. It's
Yeah.
like-
Right. Right.
No, that's absolutely great to say, because for the longest time when I was younger, you know, my idols were my idols, and I always wanted to draw like these guys, and I wanted to accomplish what they accomplished, and I would always dive into their history, and I'd read everything about their backstories and how they did this. And then the older I got and didn't have the success, wasn't breaking into the industry, it took me in the wrong directions, you know, mentally, because I was like, man, what's wrong with me? Because all my idols are making it big in their, you know, some of them in their late teens, early 20s, and here I am, you know, 22, 23, 24. You know, it wasn't until I kind of stepped away from that and got my own style, you know, took a break from art, and then came back in my 30s, in my late 30s, and started doing it again, and it really kind of focused on me and using them, like you said, as like a roadblock and inspiration now, and not like the goal, like I have to be these guys or I'm a failure.
Yeah, because like Mike Wieringo, the late great Mike Wieringo, working on Flash was 32 when he broke in. Jack Kirby created the Fantastic Four with Stan Lee when he was 44.
One of my biggest inspirations right there for
yeah. And Jack just was Jack. He just kept drawing, just kept creating. And the only thing that matters in our industry is what you create and what you put out. That's the only thing that matters. And the thing is, you just got to create and do stuff. When I say create, it's either doing corporate comics or your own indie comics or whatever. The main thing is just put stuff out and work, and put the work out, you know, because that's what lives on, and like try to improve with every piece that you do, you know. It's always good in the back of your mind, because like for me, I'm always chasing the ghosts of guys who always inspired me. In my mind, it's always like, okay, I want to try to have something on the same level as Michael Golden and Joe Mad and Scott Campbell and Arthur Adams and Jason Pearson. In my mind, those are the superstars for me. And like, I want to be able to have a piece that's kind of in that same orbit, maybe.
Right.
You know, that's always what I'm kind of shooting for. Like, okay, well, maybe this will orbit. That'll be his moon. Like, okay, I'll be that moon in my mind, because it's like, that's the kind of ghost that I'm chasing. That's what motivates me to get better. But at the same time, like, to compare myself to, like, you know, Joe's career or Jason's career or Scott Campbell's career, it's not the same thing, man. Like, we break into different times. We're around a different peer group or artists at different times. You know, those things are key to development and where you're at. And sometimes you have to run your own race where you're at and do the best you can, you know. But that's always great about creating a support group too. Like, people are talking about sketch and draws. Like, those are great. You know, do those. Like, I miss those. In LA, I used to do this thing called Drink and Draw. I loved it. Came out here, and it's like Northern California. Like, there's nothing like that out here. And like, Pixar is like 45 minutes down the road. And like, I talk to those guys, and they're like, dude, when I come home, like, I just want to hang out with my family. Like,
yeah.
Like, so I was like, oh, you don't breathe art? Like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. But, you know, it's all good. I think you just got to find outlets for yourself for development and opportunities to grow. And it's really great to read about people's stories and what they've done, but at the same time, it's more about putting in the work too. You know, you always gotta. Because I used to think if I bought these art books, I'd be as good as them.
Yeah.
I still sucked. I'm like, oh, what's going on? I'm like, like, jackass, you got to draw. Just work. Do the work. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do the work. So.
Yep. I'm right there with you. Well, JonBoy, this has been extremely awesome, man. We're gonna have to get you back on the show. I would say I don't want to hold you too much longer, because I know you got stuff to do.
You got a life.
You got a life, yeah.
I gotta finish Justice League, man.
Exactly. Well, that too, yeah. So we'll have to get you back on and continue the conversation. Just talk about the stuff. And I will make sure I write it down right. I could have sworn I put like 7:45 Pacific Standard Time, but I'm like, I obviously I'm wrong, and I feel like I don't like to be late, so I apologize, guys. Oh yeah, you're fine. Like I said, it happens, especially like we have a ton of different guests that we bring on, and everybody's like in a different time zone. So sometimes it gets same thing with Ian Churchill. He's in the UK. Oh god. So I think he was like 4 hours ahead of us. So even then, we worked out a special day to have him come on, and then I even kind of had to remind him towards the beginning of the show that the time was what it was.
Hey, dude,
then,
well, you guys did that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm all in. You're like, oh, he's still like freaking artist. So I apologize, but I'll next time I promise I'll make it up to you guys. So
this has been one of the best we've had. Like very informative, very artistically spiritual. It's been
great.
I see art that way, and it's just a lot. You're just a good people, man. And again, you're super talented and super inspiring, and it's been an honor.
Oh, dude, honor's all mine. I think if I can share my experiences and things that my friends have gone through with everybody, they can learn from it and potentially help everybody else. The idea is we all stand on each other's shoulders. You know what I mean? I would never be where I'm at without the 5 guys who inspired me. I would be there at all. And those guys before them stood on like Kirby's shoulders. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah.
If there's things that I can do to help people get inspired and feel empowered, and you can do this, hey guys, you guys can do it. The most important thing is just to draw. And you may suck now, but you keep that calendar on the wall every day you're drawing. Treat it like a second job. You're gonna get good. It's like sports, man. Treat it like basketball. You want to get good at basketball? Practice every day.
Yep.
There's no magic bullet. It's time. That's it. To pay your dues, investment. So, just do that. And I think we had one more question. Would you like to see black hole?
Heronberg, said for us it was it would be Logan's Run, but remake of the black hole.
No, okay. So the black hole was my first science fiction movie. I liked it more than Star Wars.
Really?
Robots were killing people, and I thought that was
true.
So
it's been a long time since I saw the black, but yep.
But I didn't watch it as an adult because, again, it goes back to our conversation earlier.
Right.
The idea of something, and then you watch it again, it just ruins it. So I can't do it. I wouldn't want to watch a remake of it because I would love to see them do a TV thing because, the Lost in Space thing on Netflix has been really good.
I'll check that out. I've heard it was pretty decent.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But I don't know. Honestly, I'm more big of you know what? You don't have to recycle it. Just make something new. It kind of has that same feel, but make it do something new. Right. You don't have to keep recycling the same old ideas. It's like rom-coms, right? They're always the same formula. And it's especially teen rom-coms. And I love watching them. My wife loves them, but it's always the same formula. Hey, girl. But I think if you come up with something new and different, it kind of turns the genre on its ear. Because I think that's why I got to give props to Zack Snyder. The things that he's doing in film and narrative to add story and add a different visual narrative onto it, no one is really doing. And it kind of pisses me off that people kind of take a crap all over that. And it's look, it's just a different voice. If it's not your thing, it's cool. You got all these other things to pick from, but you don't have to just because you don't like it doesn't mean that you have to crap all over it. I get it. We all crap on stuff. I do it too. But I'm just saying this is for me too. But I'm just saying it's, I think with everything that you see and consume, there's always nuggets that you can take away as an artist, whether it's a beat. Because slowing down and speeding up frames is something that we can do very easily in comics, where thinner panels denote faster movement of time and things like that. Longer panels, longer denotations of time. We can translate those things into our work as well. And when you walk away with something, good things inspire you. And try to look at the positive of all that stuff and see watching Justice League, just what I watch is oh man, I just want to give, hey, Zack Snyder, here's $200 million.
Oh yeah.
Another movie, man. Just here you go. Just take it and do it. I want to see another.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Chauncey had also said we have a drawing stream that we do. We're going to probably do every couple months throughout the year. You're more than welcome to join if you ever have time and you want to.
Yeah, let me know how that works. So I'm all in. Just let me know. I've never done a draw stream thing. So
it's basically what we do is we all get together, and there's sometimes usually there's like 10 of us all together,
Okay.
and you're just drawing whatever you want to draw. There's no theme to it. Some people are doing sketches, some people working on commissions, some people are just working on their own projects, whatever.
Do you have like
And
a camera over your shoulder while you're working? And just
yep, so you can do it two different
You
ways.
don't have to.
You can just have a camera on you while you're working and periodically show what you're doing. You can have a camera on your work. We've had people do it whatever they feel comfortable, because sometimes people aren't as comfortable drawing while everyone's watching every tiny little thing they're doing.
It's weird because at shows, I'll start working, and when I look up, there are like 3 people like this, and you're like, well, I got you in my personal space here. What's going on, guys? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like it's so weird, but
yeah. So I mean, that's basically what it. So it's however anybody feels
I've never
comfortable
done it, but I'd be
doing.
open to it. Just let me know when you guys do the next one. If I get some free time on my schedule, I'm not working on Princess Dragon Killer, then yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'll keep you up to date. I think the next time we're doing is April 3rd, but like I said, we're going to be doing every couple months throughout the end of the year on a Saturday night. And what it is basically everybody comes in here, we draw, and we just talk. It's basically like a bunch of guys getting together, or gals, whoever wants to jump in, you know, and just drawing and talking, shooting the shit, you know, whatever kind of happens.
Yeah,
you
that'd
know.
be cool.
So it's just
Yep.
Very cool.
Sounds like fun. Yeah. Be like, oh man, that's cool. What are you drawing? Oh man.
Yeah, like Leandro said, just shoot the Shiite while we're drawing.
Right. Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd be down for that. Yeah,
Shiite. I always say Shiite, whatever. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's stylized way.
It's all the same. It's all poop.
Yeah. But all right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Gotta have a safe word when people enter your personal space. Yep, that's true. Safe words are what you need.
You just hope your friend doesn't think you don't have BO. You know, that's you're kind of like,
No, they just want to peg me. They want to do dirty things. It's horrible. The chat just wants to see me cry in pain.
The chat, has been on Sean the last couple
They're
streams.
Like, hey, have you thought about renting a GIMP? No.
What?
Yeah, exactly. So,
it's thank you, Mandy. We're looking forward to having you on. Thank you so much for hanging with us tonight. JonBoy, before we when we're gonna end the show here, but stick around with us for a second before we go. All right. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Before we do go, JonBoy, you want to plug anything? Listen, obviously you're not on Twitter, but
like, I think I've talked about myself enough. Like, people don't want to hear crap. Like, I think just the main thing, guys, I would say is just draw, man. You guys do your creator-owned stuff. You know, just be smart about what you're doing and think about the future. You just never know. You might be working on something that's going to be the next Star Wars or Walking Dead. You just never know. So just protect yourself legally and just be smart about it. You know, if you want to be in a professional industry, act like a pro.
There you go. Yeah, that's great advice, and it's been very inspiring stream today. Sean, where can we find your work before we get out of here?
Sean Ahrendt across the board on social media. Geeks at the Beach on Facebook, which is the convention I throw down here in Delaware with my partner Heather Reed. And in 2 weeks, I'm gonna launch the preview book for Type 1. So
send me a link. I'll back
you. Go.
Let me know if you guys are doing Kickstarters. Let me know. I'd be more than happy to back. So
for the preview book, like when I did like convention sketchbooks, it's called Con Artist, the artist Sean Ahrendt.
Yeah, catchy. So, I like it.
Well, you know, like it's just like, hey, here's my thing, hit me up, and then I do a sketch and sell it that way. But the Indiegogo will be launching in September.
That's cool. Well, let me know. Like, send me a link, man. I'll be more than happy to support, man. Got to support indie creators.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you can find me on any of the social medias. Just type in Joe Sonntag or Joe M. Sonntag. I do have a YouTube channel under Joe M. Sonntag where I talk about I have a series called Appreciating Comic Book Art where we look at comic books and we just appreciate it. So
actually, I'm gonna follow you guys right now. So
awesome.
It's me messages. So it's like, dude, where are you, dude?
You could have been nicer, Joe. I told you. You could have been nicer.
Those are private messages. God damn it. But so my book Reaper Destroyer, I'm working on right now, should be out for campaigning later this year. I'm probably going to push it back towards the end of the year as opposed to the summer because I'm just putting more time into working on it, and I'm a slow artist. That's just what it is. But be on the lookout for that. I know everyone that watches the chat, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think that's it. I think that's all my promotion right there. So,
and thank you everybody for joining us this evening. It's been a hell of a show, one of our best for sure.
yes, it's been. Oh yeah, and so tomorrow, Sean and I are going to be on with a rabbi from another planet. At 2:00, we're going to join his stream and talk about our projects and talk about the Out and Stuff show, because we are on a march to 1,000 subscribers. So again, anybody out there is checking this out for the first time and or checking it out live or not live, spread the word, subscribe, help us get to 1,000 subscribers. We're way away from it because of various reasons, and you know why we are sitting where we're sitting. So the people in the chat know what's up. I'm not going to go into that, but we are trying to get to 1,000 by May 7th, which is our anniversary show, and we're going to have some fun guests on that show. And yeah, so about that.
I'm going to be showing some the cover to Type 1 by Murat Michaels, the ultimate cover. So it's going to be good times.
Yep. Hey, Simple Jack. Hail. All right, guys. So we are going to end this stream. Thank you so much for joining us. Be good to each other out there. Have a great weekend. Be safe. And as always, picture me naked. I'll talk to you later. Peace.